The Toronto Raptors took on the Orlando Magic on the road. The Orlando Magic, winners of three straight, a surprising, emerging team in the Eastern Conference, a team that has spent plenty of time being pretty bad over the last few years, developing, drafting very well. A team, may I remind you, that was without its starting point guard, who is a hell of a player in Markelle Fultz, and a team that brought it to the Raptors in a way I don't think they were expecting. The Raptors do not look like they were ready to play this game. It looked like the Raptors approached this game with preseason intensity, whereas the Orlando Magic realized, justifiably so, that their in-season tournament odds were still alive. The Raptors did not realize that they were even playing the in-season tournament. And if you got a little wind of how the Raptors players responded to questions about the in-season tournament, you might be justifiably curious if this team even registered that this tournament existed. They got absolutely outclassed, outcoached, out-hustled, out-rebounded. They were the better team, in my opinion. I think they were the more talented team. That might be very hard for some people to believe right now because they looked so thoroughly useless. It happens. It shouldn't happen as often as it has happened, but it does happen. One game does not make a player. One game does not make a season. But it just feels too often this year that old habits have been hard to kill for the Toronto Raptors. This comment right here, the Magic played with the flow. They cut, they shared the ball. It was really pretty. Absolutely. It was a joy to watch the Orlando Magic. I like a lot of their young players. I like a lot of their players in general. I've grown to be quite fond of Jalen Suggs over the last year after spending a lot of time slamming him, largely due to the Scotty Suggs stuff that was in the Toronto media that really pissed me off. I love Anthony Black. He's one of my favorite rookies, and I have a lot of hope for that kid's future. He is a hell of a player. Loved him in college. Jonathan Isaac, one of my favorite players in the NBA. It was a really tough team to go up against if you're not going to bring it. This is not a good offensive team, but it is a good defensive team, and they're good at getting into the paint. And it seems like nobody told the Raptors that because there was no resistance offered. Magic got whatever they wanted on the glass. I think Darko Rajakovic's rotations were horrible tonight. I think Scotty Barnes was passive, and I think every one of his teammates, with the exception of maybe one, were way too individualistic, way too ball dominant. Everyone just wanted to do it themselves. It's one thing against the Detroit Pistons when your shots are falling and the other team is just gutless to just buy into the game plan and do the things that you're finally supposed to do. But do you do the things that you're supposed to do when you're down 5 and a team punches you in the face? That, I think, is the gut check moment. And I think for the Raptors, honestly, tough loss. It does not get easier. The Indiana Pacers are a team that plays with force. The Toronto Raptors, so far into the season, are a team that consistently plays without force. This is setting up for quite a disaster tomorrow. I hope this is a wake-up call to the Toronto Raptors that you cannot walk into games sleepwalking and expect to just hang around and turn it around. The Raptors have led by double digits in what feels like every single game this year. There have been very few wire-to-wire professional wins. The last game comes to mind. Milwaukee comes to mind. But almost every other game, there have been self-inflicted wounds and self-implosion across the roster. And it's very low-hanging fruit to just say, it's the roster, it's this, it's that. It is so much more. It is so much more. It is lineups. It is synergy. It is, the rotations. It's when you call timeouts. It's your game plan. It's your matchups. It's your intensity. It's your buy-in, right? Let's hit the intro. If you got something to say, call in. Let's talk about it. It's over when you get a Zan Tabak reference. Wow. Do I think Scotty will ever fix his passiveness? And I certainly hope so. Absolutely. I do think so. But there's so much to talk about with this game, man. All right, let's talk about it. Okay, so let's look at the box scores here. The Orlando Magic, I mean, they get a really professional effort from Paolo Banchero. I think Cole Anthony off the bench was a problem for this team. Played with a lot of force. I think Mo Wagner, Franz Wagner were pretty tough to deal with. They're just big. This is a big team. This is not a team that you necessarily want to go undersized with your, two point guard backcourt. You have a point guard, you have point forwards on the team. There really is no need to be this silly with your rotations. And I don't like this Schroeder Flynn backcourt. It rarely has ever worked. I understand, being sure, but if you're not sure at this point of Scotty and Pascal, being able to initiate possessions, and what's so sad is that you so often have, guys like Precious bringing up the ball. It didn't happen much tonight, but you have point forwards. What is this obsession with playing these two undersized guards? What are you getting? I know that, offensively, it looks like Dennis Schroeder had a great game, right? I don't like Dennis Schroeder leading the team in field goal attempts. I never do. I realized tonight he probably was a better bet than many, but I don't think offense was really your issue tonight. You shot 50% from the field, 50% from three. This is a game you should absolutely win. You played a very tough defensive team. This is one of the best defensive teams in the NBA, and you shot 50% from three and 50% from the field. So clearly, that's not the issue. What's the issue? They took 100 shots. That's the issue. They shot worse from you from three and beat you. They shot worse from you than the line and beat you. You got to the line more and they beat you. I mean, where is the gap here? Well, let's see. 38 rebounds, 40 rebounds. That's not that big a gap, but 15 offensive rebounds versus 5 offensive rebounds is the game. All right. And look at the field goals here. They took 25 more shots than you. Okay. You turn it over 24 times. They get 31 points off those turnovers. That's transition defense. That's playing with force. Okay. Your largest lead was 2. Their largest lead was 27. This was a blowout. This was an absolute blowout for most of the second half. Actually, say for one stretch of the game, which was 6 minutes to about the end of the second half, when Scotty decided to take the reins. It started with Siakam. Poking the ball loose on Banchero, and then it sort of spiraled from there. Scotty started crashing the glass, realizing that his team needed a rebounder, and no one was grabbing rebounds. So he decided to just push it. He was pushing tempo. I think Scotty lacked a little bit of burst tonight. He didn't really do a lot with his pick and roll. And again, it's hard. I mean, the casual fan will never understand how good a defender Jonathan Isaac is. And when he becomes, a guy who's guarding you, it is not going to be an easy night for anybody. I know he's been injured a lot over the last 3-4 years, so people just sort of forget who he is, but he is incredible. He is an incredible defender. I think more than anything, what you saw tonight was good process versus bad process in terms of team development, team leadership. Jeff Weltman is, of course, one of the architects of the Toronto Raptors. He was a general manager of the Toronto Raptors, moved on to become president of the Orlando Magic. Anthony Parker, currently their general manager. Shout out to Anthony Parker, one of my favorite all-time Raptors from that brilliant 2006-2007 team. And I got to tell you, seeing their accumulation of young talent is honestly great. They have done, I've actually, in my preseason predictions, I had them above the Raptors. They were one of the few teams that people were pretty surprised to see above the Raptors. It's not because I think Paolo is great. It's not because I think Franz is some next generation type of thing. I just know that playing against this much size is very, very difficult for teams, and it can disrupt your flow. We saw this team beat the Raptors twice last year, back to back. It was sort of, the watershed moment of the season where everything kind of fell apart, losing to Orlando twice. This team also beat the Boston Celtics last year twice. That caught a lot of people sleeping. I think they also beat. Did they also beat Kawhi and the Clippers? There was a succession of games there where you really saw what this much size can do to suffocate another offense. Um, I don't know, man. I don't think this team is that good. I just think their roster construction is so disruptive and so hard to play against. I think Jamal Mosley coached a hell of a game, which is a lot more than I can say for Darko Rajakovic, man. I don't like his rotations. I have had issues with his rotations pretty much all year. Let's talk about individual performances. Pascal Siakam, 16 points, 2 rebounds, 8 assists, 1 steal. I do not like this game from Pascal Siakam. Shock. Are you shocked? No, you shouldn't be shocked. Look, man, I think he had good moments. I think there were moments where it looked like he was playing defense. There was actually a competent stretch, I want to say in the third quarter, where he really did guard his tail off on the backside. Like there was some good help side rotations at the rim. But for the most part, man, like he was a turnstile defensively. It looked like he was doing a great job, but it wasn't. Like it looked like, when guys get in their stance and they're like really, really twitchy and active, but then they just give a blow by and then they don't do anything. Yeah, it was a lot of that. Offensively, when he didn't have the ball, man, it was sad. Like just jogging, sorry screens, all the same shit that I've been complaining about like for the first, 7, 8 games, 9 games, 10 games. Basically, there's 2 types of Siakam games, and I'm going to show you a little chart here. Now, to those of you who track the analytics, you probably noticed that Scotty's usage has taken a massive dip over the last 7 games relative to where it was the first 7 games. And I want to show you why that might be. So here is a chart showing the advanced box scores prior to tonight's game. And I want you to take a look at 2 columns, usage and box plus minus, or you can look at usage and game score. Honestly, you can look at usage in just about anything and see how usage correlates to performance. Now, you'll probably notice that Scotty started out this season around 26% usage. He's currently 5th in the NBA in estimated plus minus. It might dip to 6th after this game. He is currently 9th in the NBA box plus minus. It might dip to 10th after this game, but it might stay. He didn't have a bad game. He just didn't have a great game. He is basically a top 10 player across the board, regardless of what people think. And, they can feel what they want to feel. The facts don't give a shit about your feelings. As I so eloquently said numerous times on Twitter today, why is your best player suddenly 57th in the NBA and probably closer to 70th over the last 7 games in usage? Why are guys like Emmanuel Quickly, why are guys like Jonathan Kuminga getting more usage than Scotty Barnes? Well, it's a simple compromise, actually. If you look at the relationship between usage and performance, you'll see that Scotty has no real correlation between usage and performance. He will perform well in his 20.5 usage game. He will perform well in his 21.9% usage game, but he will also perform well in his 29.9 usage game. There is no technical correlation. What there is a correlation of course, is the more usage, the more you have an impression on the game, which is to say that if a player is like Cade Cunningham, where they have consistently 31% usage, or, someone like, I don't know, Joel Embiid with 36% usage, which is leading the league, the more usage you have, the more decisions you're making within your offense. It means, generally speaking, the more passes you're initiating, the more turnovers you have, the more the ball is sort of in your hands. It's not time of possession per se, but it does have a great correlation between how much of an imprint you're making on the team versus how much are you benefiting off of the imprint that others are making on the team. And I think for the Raptors long term, honestly, having Scotty under 28% usage is pretty stupid and quite ridiculous. I understand he has his limitations. He's not a perfect player, but by no means is there anyone on this team that is worth compromising his usage this much for. The problem occurs when the other player on the team that requires usage has such a massive dip when he goes into low usage. Now, you'll notice Siakam pretty much when he's under 21% usage, he's useless, right? The first two games, 25.2, 20.4, then he had the really, really low usage game where everyone was complaining 14.4, the offense is freezing him out. He was negative box plus minus in those 3 games. You boosted it up to 27.4 the next game. He suddenly had a positive one. Then he had that one game that I really liked against Milwaukee where he was low usage and high impact. That is the only such game this year. Every other game with Siakam where there has been low usage, there has been negative impact. It's basically across the board. This is 13 game sample. 17.7% usage, boom, -5. 19.7 against Orlando, -13.3. So after San Antonio, after all that fanfare about Scotty Barnes, you see a completely drastically different Pascal Siakam role on offense. We see 31.5, 36.4, 38.4. This is like Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic type, usage right there. Positive, positive, positive. The one game against Milwaukee where you dip down to 20.6, it goes right to negative again. Then you go 30.2, he's back to positive. So the Raptors have a problem on their hands. They have a guy who refuses to play basketball if he does not have high usage. You want to call that sabotaging the offense? You want to call me out for that? I don't really care. Call it what you want. The data is telling you the truth. But if you not put the ball in this guy's hands, he's going to not be an effective offensive player. So what do? If you're Scotty Barnes, you care about winning, you lower your usage and you allow him to be more high usage, because that box plus minus number is actually mapping both offense and defense. He is more engaged offensively and defensively when he has the ball. Simple. Is this a matter of a player protesting a low usage role? I don't know. I'm not in Pascal Siakam's head. It certainly feels that way sometimes, but maybe that's just blinders on, hating. Maybe that's a bias. Maybe that's something I need to check. So maybe it is more or less a player who for the last 4 years has had 25, 27% usage. You know what I mean? Look, man, players are creatures of habit and rhythm. Like, I can tell you, for instance, with the Bucks are a great example, which will be a little triggerless or a little less triggery for Raptor fans. Damian Lillard has had a habit in Portland of playing entire first quarters and entire third quarters, and he usually gets his wind, like 2-3 minute rest, 4-minute rest at the start of the second and then the start of the fourth. This has been his pattern forever. This is how he's wanted to play. This is how he played. I think he's played like this for like 5-6 years. So when Adrian Griffin started to take him out at the 8-minute mark of the first quarter, his performance dipped a lot. Brook Lopez is a player who is used to deep drop coverage under Coach Bud, right? Adrian Griffin came in. He wanted to play more switchy, higher up defense, and the Bucks defense struggled. So what happened? Well, Adrian Griffin listened to Brook Lopez when he said, and the players when they said that they wanted to go back to deep drop coverage because it was helping their defense, and their defense improved massively. And Damian Lillard, maybe, I don't know. I don't have the intel if he made this, but they have been doing what Dame is more comfortable with historically, and they're better. Dame is better. Dame has been much better. I think he is, if I'm not mistaken, leading the league or one of the top guys in the league in terms of points per possession off of drives. That has not really been his game, but, it's been his game this year. So the Bucks are doing better because they're putting players in positions where they're more comfortable. I think the question then becomes, who are you bending to and who are you bending for? Who are you bending away from their strengths in order to bend someone else to their strengths? Because, everybody wants the ball a little bit more, right? I'm sure Scotty would want the ball a little bit more, have a little bit more deciding power, but then what does that do to Schroeder's usage? What does that do to Pascal's overall game? And I think Scotty's probably determined at this point that he can't really win basketball games if Pascal Siakam is posting negative box plus minus like every game. You know what I mean? He's always done this. Just an FYI, Scotty and OG have always done this. They have always cratered to the demands of their more ball dominant teammates. If Gary's not going to play defense, if he doesn't get 15 shots, let's get Gary his 15 shots and we'll live with it. It's a game within a game. Team politics are like this as well. So I think that what Pascal Siakam needs to get used to is how to make an impact when the ball is not necessarily coming your way, because there are going to be tough shooting nights. There's going to be nights where Scotty is going to have more favorable matchup, or Schroeder or OG are going to have more favorable matchup based on how the defense is kind of covering you. If the defense kind of forces you to go through, there's that old quote that I shared, the game will show you how to play. Absolutely. It's the same thing with matchups. If the Magic are going to put Jonathan Isaac on Scotty Barnes, unfortunately, as much as you would want Scotty Barnes to go out and score 50 points, that's not going to happen against Jonathan Isaac. Sorry to say, Jonathan Isaac is better at defense than Scotty Barnes is at offense right now. Okay, that's just factual. I don't think like that's even debatable right now. So if you're going to blitz, on the pick and roll, you're going to have rollers. If you're going to blitz the coverage up on the ball handler and try to, force it out of his hand, well, he's going to have to make passes. You can't just go through it. I think people sometimes, who casually watch basketball just assume that the game plan should just be like 2K, where you just come down the court and take threes. And, I think we've just gotten so accustomed to watching, Tracy McGrady and Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan. There's no Michael Jordan. There's no Kobe Bryant on this team. There's nobody on this team who can go outside the offense and just take over for an entire game this way. You just don't have that level of talent. It doesn't mean you don't have good players, though. You just have players that need to buy into team. And if they don't buy into team, they'll continue to struggle the way they have struggled so far. Anything else that sticks out? Let's talk about more individual performances. I think we just talked mainly about Siakam there. OG Anunoby, I don't think he had a good game at all, man. Shot reasonably well. He's a big reason why he and Dennis Schroeder, really big reason why you shoot so well from three. I mean, 4 for 4 from Dennis Schroeder. It's hard to be critical of him, man, but like, I don't think he played a good game. Honestly, he really, really looked for his own. I think, it's weird. Like when he's playing more like an off ball role, he's freaking amazing. I wonder if he's noticed this about himself. Like when he can kind of just attack off the catch instead of doing all this dribble, survey, let me see what's going on. Like he's much better. It's hard to be critical of a guy who was 8 for 13 and shot 4 for 4 from three. But I'm telling you, man, like there are possessions where he just milks the advantage out of your offense. And the defense was just bad. And I understand, he's 6'2". What do you want him to do? They're starting a guy who's 6'7" on the other end, and he's blazing fast. It's a tough game, right? Jakob Poeltl, I don't know. He was okay. Very turnover prone. Scotty Barnes, 5 turnovers. Not a great game from Scotty. I think the plus minus a little bit misleading on him. Played that incredibly bad bench unit, but like, man, he tried on the glass, but I would have liked to see a little bit more assertiveness, more decisiveness. Try to get to the line more, man. Four free throw attempts, just not cutting it. His free throw rate has not been great this year. If there's one weakness in his game right now, it is that, right? He hit that incredible 3-pointer with the buzzer going down at the end of the half. I think that gave the Raptors a little bit of momentum going into the half. But the minute they came out, if you were expecting like the Orlando Magic to be shook, they were not. Like they knew what game they were playing, right? Off the bench, I think Chris Boucher and Precious Achiuwa were really, really, really bad tonight. Like, I mean, honestly, like that run when they were on, just terrible. 3 turnovers for Precious Achiuwa. I mean, it's clear they're trying this like point forward thing with him, right? This is a 4th straight game or 3rd straight game where he has had like higher assist numbers than you're used to from Precious Achiuwa. Malachi Flynn, not great. Just not a good matchup for him. Gary Trent Jr., really one of the worst games in a long time. There was a lot of like, okay, let me do it by myself. Let me do individual stuff. And I did not like that at all from him. Jalen McDaniels, I mean, not great. Grady Dick, not great. I mean, there really wasn't a lot to hold on to. I don't think Garrett Temple has missed a shot all season, if that makes you feel better. And, Otto Porter Jr., I mean, what can I say? I think he's your 5th best player. I think I can make a very, very valid statistical case for that he's your 5th best player. Putting him in garbage time is disrespectful. It is absolutely stupid. I don't understand it. And, if he's coming off an injury that I don't know about, then okay, that's different. But I do not like this. And this is just, I mean, I think he could have helped you tonight. I really do. I understand, rotations exist. Chris Boucher has really earned his spot. How many different guys you're going to play, etc. But a lot of people saying, I think I read a tweet today by Chris Wilder who said, like, how many bench players on the Raptors would even, play on the Magic? And he came up with just one, which was Gary Trent Jr. And I just thought, man, be better. Like, be better than this, man. This is such a, as much as I say the Raptors need to break out of bad habits, whereby, you're talking about like selfishness and isolation basketball and just going away and not playing with force and not playing with intensity. I think this media space, I think we all need to break out of some bad habits over the last couple of years. And the most common bad habit, I think, is to just immediately go to the bench sucks. The bench sucks. You know what? That old quote, one bad roommate. You got a bad roommate? Maybe. You got two bad roommates? Maybe. You got three bad roommates? You're the bad roommate. So if your bench sucks every single year, it's either Masai Ujiri. It's, these are not the same players every single year either, by the way. You're adding things every single year, right? Gary Trent Jr. was not on your bench last year. There were spurts of 2 years ago where Precious Achiuwa was starting for you, okay? Chris Boucher has started for you. He has been consistently the second best player in an entire playoff series for you. If this guy can't play off your bench for you, what is that really saying? Has he regressed so badly? Otto Porter Jr. was a sixth man on a championship team 2 years ago. He can't play off your bench? You're telling me he can't play on Orlando's bench? This is a match. This is a matter of lineups. This is a matter of system. This is a matter of leaders. You don't have, Kobe Bryant coming off your bench. You have role players coming off your bench. Role players rely on stars to create. Role players rely on stars to dictate tempo. I don't think the Raptors had any star dictate tempo. I think Scotty tried in the second half. In the first half towards the end. I think it looked good. I think you got a spurt. I think you got a 4-minute spurt of what this entire game should have looked like if the Raptors were expecting to win. I genuinely think the Raptors are a more talented team. You can fight me on it. I don't really care. I think long-term potential, obviously, if you look at the Orlando Magic roster, there's like a lot of really good pieces that could pop. But you made Jalen Suggs look like Kyle Lowry tonight. Like, he's just talking smack all over. And I've come to appreciate Jalen Suggs a lot more. But, like, man, you got to shut that guy up. He's so annoying. All right. We got some callers. I'm going to take 1 second to just deal with this troll. 1 sec. Salvatore, what's up, man? You got your mic off. Salvatore Russo. We've banned 5 of your accounts so far. What's up? Hello, and you're gone. Okay. Holy shit. All right, let's bring on 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's no, actually, let's not. Let's bring on 3. Let's bring on Jonathan. Let's bring on Coach Mo, and let's bring on Florian. What up, guys?
Hey, Rob, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
Doing all right. I mean, that was disappointing to watch, to say the least. Getting like shown up like that by Jalen Suggs, sticking out his tongue. It's sad. It's sad.
I agree. It was. I mean, it's just Pat Beverly is living rent free in my head right now, man.
Yeah.
He said it, and when he said it, I didn't want to believe it. But the more time has passed, I'm like, you know what? Maybe he's right. It's like too many nice guys. I mean, you cannot let someone do that to you. It's disrespectful. He's flexing on you. He's body checking you. I mean, they played with so much force tonight. It was impressive to see too. I mean, just basketball level, it's good to see someone play good basketball. But like, you just think to yourself, like, what would happen if Pascal Siakam and Scotty Barnes did that to them? Like, I think they could.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Suggs is certainly, like, I know, just, gosh, the reactions on Twitter right now, people are like, oh, are we sure we didn't draft the wrong player? I'm like, oh my God.
Really?
God, people are so stupid.
Well, I think you summed it up really nice at the beginning. Execution. It was the complete difference in this game. And
I'm just gonna keep this on the screen while you talk for a minute, so people can get a perspective on who's the best player in this draft. Holy shit! Okay,
yeah,
continue.
I mean that's not even really a conversation, and if you're talking down to people and trying to meet them on their level, they're going to beat you with experience, right? So it's a polite way of saying people are stupid. But the first thing I thought was like it's brutally obvious, like from wire to wire, was the lack of execution. The number of times I didn't see any connective interaction. There was a lot of like lost looks, and you could tell like through the play, but also just through body language. It was pretty bad to see. Like the one thing that super stood out was the fact that if you look at the actual percentages, the thing that beat you is just their volume, right? It was pretty disappointing, right? That they only lost by that much, I think is it's not a good sign, because the way
you did this to teams all last year.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You crashed the glass. You won the possession battle by 10, 15, 20. I don't remember too many 25s, but like, look, I'm watching this team play against Detroit, and they're playing with so much force, and they're playing with intensity, and they're cutting into gaps. These things don't just go away when you get punched in the face. But the fact that it does go away shows me who this team is deep down, who their leaders are. The leadership is so bad, man. I tell you, the leadership is so bad on this team.
Yeah,
it is cringe.
What do you got to say, man? You're quiet.
Coach Mo.
Oh, yeah.
That was a very Raptor-like response. That's pretty much exactly how the Raptors played tonight.
Dude.
Coach? Yeah? Oh, shit. Yes. I'm playing in an in-season game? Oh, yeah. My bad.
Bro,
Jesus.
I didn't think Darko could get worse. These slow starts for Barnes. A part of it is on him. Another part is Pascal's being more featured. There's not much space to work with because Jakob and Siakam basically have the exact same shot chart. They're looking for layups, and that's it. Barnes gets pulled in the 6-minute mark. He's an afterthought in the first lineup. Him and OG are just fighting for scraps. And then he comes back in around the 2-minute mark, and then he's given 4 bench guys. I mean, he's given every hurdle possible. And then it's like, okay, turn water into wine in the second quarter. Cold, no rhythm, been sitting for like 4 minutes straight. I'm just like, his timeouts, Darko's timeouts, instead of calling a timeout when you're down 7 and the momentum it's really getting bad, the body language is bad, you wait till it's 12. But you could have called the timeout when you're down 7. But let's just wait till it's 12, because this team has really shown that they can climb out of holes themselves. So let me give them another couple more possessions to dig themselves deeper. The rotations, ones we know don't work, he keeps going to them. I don't know why Otto Porter played at the end. You mentioned it. That was he's an injury risk. He barely plays. He has a minute restriction. He can't play back-to-backs. You have one tomorrow. What's the point of putting him in garbage time? What if he got hurt? It's just the dumbest thing to me. He wasn't available earlier. This weird stealth tank thing he's doing, we have no pick, so I don't see the point in it. If Dennis is going to be your leading scorer, you're not winning a game. If Dennis leads the team in any statistical category, you're garbage. That's just the reality of the situation. If a career backup journeyman leads your team in assists, you suck. Period.
Amen.
You're garbage.
Amen.
Garbage.
Hey, man. Look, I think this is... I mean, I try to imagine what would I say? What would I think if I were in a position to do something about this? I wonder what I would say to Scotty Barnes right now. I think I would say something along the lines of this. If you want to be what you say you want to be, which is one of the greats, you're going to have to do what every great had to do, which is 3 things. Number 1, you're going to actually have to become great. Like all your skill work is going to have to actually get there at some point. So you're going to have to commit to greatness. Okay. And I think he has. Number 2, you're actually going to have to bring it every single night, and you're going to have to author your team's offense. I've never watched, well, I have actually, but very rarely have I watched a game with Kobe Bryant where Kobe Bryant just kind of like lets the Lakers offense dictate. Like you have to start with force, then you have to set the game, then you have to finish with force. Like this is the star formula every single game. You saw what Damian Lillard did to us. You saw what Joel Embiid did to us. You have to make things easier. You are not a role player. Regardless of how your team tries to, sort of use you, you cannot be a role player, right? Like you can't allow yourself to become this. And the third thing you're going to have to do is you're going to have to actually demand to be the guy. You're going to have to show it on a night-to-night basis. And when you're not it, you're going to have to demand it, which means that, unfortunately, you're going to have to do the thing that you're most uncomfortable with, which is disrupt the offense. You're going to have to stand in someone's passing lane and demand that they give you the ball. And if you miss, you miss. It doesn't matter. It's your team. Just take it. It doesn't matter. Kobe Bryant didn't, miss 2 shots and then say, okay, Jeremy Lin, you take the offense. Smush Parker, okay, I missed 2 shots. You take the offense. Look, man, here's something that I've learned about great players is that you have to live through their misses. Scotty Barnes is going to have to learn to live through his. I don't like this version of Scotty, which is like role player and identity, where if he misses 3-4, it's suddenly like, okay. Or if he turns the ball over, it's like, okay, you initiate now. No, man. Have 10 turnovers. I don't care. Have 55 misses. I don't care. Go launch 60 shots. The day Scotty Barnes takes 50 shots in a game, I'll be the happiest person ever, because it's what he needs to do. This has to happen. It has to happen. You have to get out of this zone of like, I'll take it when I have it. No, take it. Just take it. So it's important. And, as much as I can criticize Fred and Schroeder and Pascal and all these guys, the truth is none of these guys are really even in the ballpark of what he's supposed to be. So if he wants it, it's his. If he doesn't want it, keep watching other people hijack your offense. Next year, you'll have some other journeyman point guard come in who's older than you, more ball dominant than you, more selfish than you, more money driven than you, and he'll take the offense from you. And it'll keep happening over and over. Scotty let Cade do this in Montverde. Let Fred do this in his rookie year. Let Pascal do it last year. I mean, shit, man. Now you're letting Dennis Schroeder do it. Don't keep letting it happen to you. This is 4 straight years, or 4 out of the last 5 years, where I've watched Scotty be off ball for a player that didn't deserve the reps. This is consistent. This is a consistent thing. At some point, you have to realize that being the best teammate, something that I learned, that loving your kids means disciplining them. It doesn't mean letting them do whatever the hell you want. Love is discipline. It's impossible to be without. So as much as, people thought Kobe and Michael were dicks because they were yelling at their teammates and demanding that they give them the ball and, giving them an earful when they didn't, and people thought that was selfish. It wasn't, though. You're saving them from themselves because they're scrubs. And scrubs need to be saved.
Yeah, you have to play the. Oftentimes, you're looking for the best percentage play, right? And if the best percentage play is like running everything through 1 or 2 guys, that's the way it has to happen, and you have to set it up that way. My wife's going to be home, so I'm going to duck pretty soon. I just wanted to say one quick thing.
Sure.
As shitty as tonight feels, everyone. This is still part of the Raptor butterfly thing. Okay, it's going to happen. Just
it's a process. We're gonna have to just live with the ups and downs. But you know what?
Execution was crap. So
I think if you're a Raptor fan, you can definitely look at this Orlando Magic team. There comes your wife.
Yep. Okay. Good night, everyone. I'll
Yes,
hang out
good night.
there.
See ya.
Cheers.
What ups though?
Pardon?
What ups? Until the roster is changed
Mm-hmm.
to some degree, until Darko is like he has like these handcuffs. I feel like there's orders from above for him to play certain players, and I don't feel like Darko's allowed. As I'm not a fan of him at all so far, but I don't feel like he's allowed to truly do what he wants to do. The same way Barnes is somewhat handcuffed, right? This is not going to fix itself. The roster is garbage. It's a horrible fit. Um, and Darko's a rookie coach and he's struggling. Like, this isn't something that's just going to solve itself over time, I don't think. Because this is what, the 13th game, and it's getting worse. Is that how it's supposed to go?
It's oh wow, this can't be real. NBA Chev? There's no way you're NBA Chev. You're just using a fake name. We got so many troll accounts here, and I'm positive it's all this one Salvatore person. I just it's amazing how one person can be so disruptive and so annoying. They've got like 4 different accounts and they're all like fake names.
Dude,
We're gonna probably have to start authenticating callers. Anyways, what was I gonna say?
I was gonna add something to Coach Mo's point. I mean, this Dennis Jakob pick and roll in the starting unit being, like one of the go-tos for this half-court offense. I think that's Darko's agenda. I don't think that's just Dennis. I think that's it's Darko's guy and Darko's game plan. So is Darko's game plan Scotty in the corner for 3 plays in the starting 6 minutes of the game? I don't know.
our 2 most valuable assets are garbage men in the starting lineup, essentially.
That's what Scotty plays like. In the first 5 minutes of the game before he gets subbed out, he really plays. He's gonna take 1-2 shots if they come to him, but otherwise he stays out of the way, and it's sad to watch. And is it like, as we were saying earlier, Rob, if Siakam doesn't get a certain amount of usage, he's not playing. Basically, he doesn't care what happens on the court.
And we know what he's going to do. He's going to
Exactly.
drive to the basket and spin. Everyone knows what he's going to do.
Exactly.
You don't need a scouting report for that.
Yeah, I mean, look, it is a process, man. Like the Pacers look great this year, right?
But we don't show flashes.
They didn't look great last year.
Detroit. We show flashes against Detroit. They're Detroit. Missing players. That's not something like.
Okay, would you rather if we lost to Detroit?
No, I mean it's great you won, but this was the game. Like if there was something you found against the Pistons, today would have been the day to show something. But
yeah,
I just think back to when Darko had this conversation with Dennis where he was like, one day you should run your own team, and here he is running his own team.
Vegan Grass, if you can let me know, when did this happen? Anyone else see Pascal yell at Scotty? No, I did not.
No, me neither, but the body language was bad. There was some miscommunication on defense where they were like pointing at each other when Paolo hit a 3, and they didn't switch properly. Precious body language was bad. It was rough.
Yeah.
Why can't Darko?
Karen, is this really you? No, this isn't you. So now this person is using fake names from people who are in the chat. Man, I'm gonna have to actually start authenticating. Do you guys both have Facebook accounts? I'm just curious. Most people have Facebook accounts, right? Okay. Yeah. So next live, I'm gonna have to start authenticating. This is like trolling like I have never seen before. Unbelievable. This guy has made about 20 different accounts. 20 different accounts. And I've banned all 20 of them. Derek Bade Head White. Derek Bald Head White. Hey Rob, I'm trying to get on the stream. Yard. No, you're not.
Do you guys get the feeling like Darko doesn't coach the game? He like coaches a script.
Look, man, I
What do
get
you
it.
mean by a script?
The rotations are the same. People are coming out and coming in
Okay.
at a certain time. It doesn't matter what's going on. Everything's predetermined.
Yeah.
Teams on a 10-0 run, I call my timeouts at this time.
Yep.
This guy's on fire. He subs out at this time. Like, it's just, I know he's a rookie coach, but holy cow.
He kept Dennis in tonight.
Like, when have you, like, honestly, Rob, when has he outcoached the opposing coach? What game?
Adrian Griffin, Milwaukee.
That
That would be one.
I was thinking that one game.
Yep.
What else?
I think he outcoached Monty, but I think maybe that was just. I mean, honestly, Monty Williams is not the greatest coach in the world, right? I think there's a lot to be said about Monty's adjustments.
Yep, that's too.
I think he outcoached Greg Popovich in the Spurs game.
You sure?
Yeah, I do. I think there were adjustments in the second half that Popovich didn't make, and the Raptors, capitalized.
I think the Spurs just in the fourth quarter, the law of averages kicked in because they couldn't miss at a certain point. I remember Keldon Johnson. He just couldn't. He wouldn't miss. And there's some dude, I forget his name, the guy with the headband off the bench. That guy made every mid-range shot. It was just like, oh my god. I remember telling my brother, I was like, yo, at some point the law of averages have to kick in. Like at some point they have to. Hopefully they do at the end of this game.
I think the Raptors, honestly, like in the first half of the San Antonio game, they just really, really, really just played without force, and they didn't really know what to do with Wembanyama's length. I think if you want like a consistent, good way to bet against this team, just look at the other team's length and wingspan. And if you see a really long team, you're going to see a team struggle. They struggled against Wembanyama's length a lot, right? They struggled against Brooks' length when they finally played drop coverage against Milwaukee. They struggled against Joel Embiid's length. Just struggle against length, man. It's a team that struggles against length.
I just don't like,
because they're not crisp. They're not crisp with their,
I just don't like that Jakob gets pulled early or Barnes gets pulled early. It's like we clearly started off bad. We were lethargic. No, just subbing a bench guy to change things up. It's like it's almost like we just threw in the towel in the second quarter. It was a wrap. Then we did a little fake comeback, but
yeah. No, I understand. I don't know. Anyways, I mean, like, look, this is a process. I hate to say it. It's a process. Every team had to go through this at some point. And, you didn't go through this last year. You gave reps to Jakob and Fred pick and rolls, and you allowed Scotty to sort of set picks and do things that he was never going to do for you at his eventual peak, which is why Nurse is gone. So now you have to go through those growing pains. You have to go through growing pains with Precious. You have to go through growing pains with OG, being pick and roll ball handlers and not being as developed at it as maybe Franz and Paolo are. Why? Because they've been doing it for the last 2 years.
Well, they're just more talented and they're better.
They're not. Let's not get crazy here, right? I mean, okay, maybe Paolo is more talented than OG and
no, Franz and I'm not talking about Precious.
Then Scotty?
Franz and Paolo are more talented than Precious.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, they're different levels.
We're talking about
they're different levels of talent, but like, I mean, at the end of the day, like, what would development reps do for Precious Achiuwa? I have no idea. I'm assuming it will help him. I mean, like any young player, I'm assuming it will help him. Look, as I said, when you aim in two directions, it's very important to realize which one your priority is. Winning, development. Development has to be the priority. So, yeah, on the one hand, I'm a little bit pissy that Otto didn't come into the game, but the person that I'm pissy that he didn't come into the game over is like someone like, I don't know, McDaniels or, like it's weird. Man, if I could show you like how many of these accounts are popping up, NBA Chev Wife, Raptorized, J5, Oak Hill 34, which I know it's not Oak Hill 34, or Oak Tree 34. I mean, geez, who has time to do this? A very sad, depressed, lonely person who was very poorly raised, who's probably out on a ledge somewhere. Honestly, I worry about people, man. Sometimes I see people's Twitter shit, and I really worry about them. I'm like, oh my God, this is like a cry for help. This is a real cry for help. There was somebody today who wrote like some of the craziest shit. I had to block them on Twitter. And it was like, bro, what is wrong with this fan base? Like, seriously, like I know, like I've seen some crazy shit written in Philly, New York, but man, this fan base is like next level ridiculous when it comes to a loss like this.
You know,
I think the Raptors need to stop losing just for the collective mental health of Raptor fans.
Michael Grange at 9:55 p.m. This is what he tweeted. He said Raptors don't want to rebuild, but are behind teams that have recently Magic, OKC, and others, Sacramento, Indiana, that have made big personnel moves to change their trajectory. Spurs have Wemby and picks. Utah has flexibility and picks. Raptors have Barnes and question mark.
The Raptors do have Scotty Barnes and question marks. That's fair. That's a fair take. You know, I'm glad he's saying Raptors have Barnes and question marks and not that Scotty Barnes is the question mark, which was his take last year. I mean, look, man, like everything I pushed for last year was because of this. Because as I talked about in the in the live this morning, you compromise development at critical stages, you hinder top potential always, right? I don't think Josh Giddey is anywhere near the level of prospect that Scotty Barnes is.
Nope.
He's been given massive reps. Jalen Williams last year was given massive reps, and you're gonna reap the benefits of that, right?
Giddey's already the odd man out in OKC. Giddey, he's the odd man out.
He could be.
He's their fourth best player, if that.
Right. So I mean, like, you know,
He
you lived through the mistakes. It's very difficult to do what the Raptors tried to do the last couple of years, which is develop and win at the same time. And it feels like they chose winning.
But win
they
what?
didn't win.
Like, you're not even winning. Like, win
Exactly. And that was the compromise. And so you do wonder, what is the directive from MLSE to Masai, and then from Masai to Darko? And then from Darko to his team. So there's like 4 levels in terms of control and command here. And I wonder what they all want, right? So you can make a case that maybe the only way to really, really, really kickstart a proper rebuild or a retool, like a very quick retool, because Scotty's way too good for you to properly tank right now, and so is OG. Maybe the only way to do it is to actually just fall out of playoff contention, so that MLSE can finally get off their, we need the revenue, we need to keep the championship shit going. Once you fall, like, I don't know, 8-9 games under 500, and man, it could happen so fast. I looked at the schedule. This is a modern NBA where you can lose every single night.
Yep, we're not good. We're not a good team. And,
for sure.
I don't enjoy watching this team play. Like, realistically, when you tune into a Raptors game, besides Scotty Barnes, maybe OG Anunoby, like, who do you look forward to watching?
Brady.
3 players. And Koloko, I guess, but he's hurt. And it's like
Otto if he's playing.
I mean, Otto if he's playing, just from a pure basketball enthusiast perspective.
Dude, I enjoy watching Charlotte. I watched Charlotte Boston last night. They're a more enjoyable team to watch. There's so much better teams. I remember watching.
I cringe at the idea of watching Charlotte, man. Like, I mean, the reason
is so fun to watch. He's so fun to watch.
LaMelo is,
he has his flaws, but he's fun to watch.
Is it fun to watch someone get blown by 50 times a game?
When he's dropping 30s and his team beat Boston, yeah.
If you have no investment, I guess.
Yeah, no, I don't care if they win or lose.
Can I just say this?
I don't care if we win or lose either. I don't care if we win or lose either.
I don't necessarily want to turn this into, a political channel, but I will say this. The idea that we are so willing as a society to turn a blind eye to domestic violence is ridiculous. Watching Bridges hit that game winner when he should fucking be in jail was ridiculous. We have such a weird stance towards this, and I don't get it. I cannot support someone. I had a bit of a moral conundrum because I grew up, before I knew the severity of his crimes, grew up a really big fan of the filmmaker Roman Polanski. A really big fan. some of his favorite films. Some of my favorite films were his films: The Pianist, Rosemary's Baby, Chinatown. Man, this guy is a fantastic filmmaker. Scum of the earth, right? The more I dug into him, and then there is this sort of idea of like, how do you separate the person from the act? Can I enjoy a person's films and know that they are what they are? And how many women, how many young girls did he victimize? I can't. I used to be able to. I used to be able to divide that in my head. I used to be able to divide that and say, okay, that's one thing. This is another thing. I can't anymore. So it's hard for me, man. It's hard. So watching the Charlotte, Hornets.
Are you putting Bridges in that category?
I am.
There was another line of thinking where it's like, so he has, I think, multiple children with this woman, I believe, and they're getting child support. So him making money is benefiting her and his kids, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, not allowing him to provide for them, is that helping them? You know what I mean?
I don't know, man. There's no right. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, the only right and wrong here that I can come up with is it's not okay to beat women.
Yeah.
And it's not okay to beat children. And it's not okay to assault women. Like, I can't get okay with that. Okay. So if you want to say it's an allegation, it's not. I mean, it's not an allegation, right? I mean, is it an allegation? Someone educate me if I'm wrong, right? So if it is, then sure. Right.
I mean,
I'm not of the believe the victim always mentality. We have a judicial process for a reason. It's innocent until proven guilty. Fine. But man, like, I've heard her, man. Like, I've heard her side of this. It's really hard for me to believe that he's innocent in this.
No, I don't think he's innocent. But could you not make an argument? Him missing 2 years in his prime, and I think at least $100 million was that was a big, like, he was up for a huge extension. He had a great year, and that's gone. I don't think he's ever getting big money.
I don't care.
I think that's out the window.
I have to, you have to draw a line somewhere. I mean, I'm gonna quote Ed Davis. Sorry, not Ed Davis. What am I saying? Ed Harris from The Town. You watch The Town? Was it The Town? No, it's Gone Baby Gone.
I watched Gone Baby Gone. Yeah.
Do you remember the part where he and Casey Affleck are talking after the car? After Casey, do you remember this like really famous scene between these two actors?
No.
Where Ed Harris is drunk, right? And he's talking just off the cuff about this one time where he planted some dope on this guy to send him to jail. And Casey Affleck is just being very moral. It's not right to do this. And he said, if you beat a child, if you hurt a child, he's like, you have to pick a side. If you beat a child, you hurt a child, you are not on my side. You see me, you better get the fuck out of my way because I'm going to run you down. I watched that film, I think, when I was in my late teens, early 20s. It's always stuck with me, man. I watched a lot of that shit when I was growing up in the projects and like in government housing. You saw a lot of violence against women and specifically children. I saw a lot of violence against myself. If you beat a child, if you hurt your woman, you are not on my side. I cannot support you. I don't care how much money you lose. I don't care. I don't have any empathy for it. I do understand it though. Believe me, I do. I know violence runs through families. I know it runs through generations. You have a responsibility to break the curse. I understand people who abuse children were so often abused by themselves. So I understand the human element of why it happens, but I cannot excuse it happening. There is a difference between having empathy for someone and excusing their actions because they're an athlete. I think we live in a society where athletes are able to do certain things that are above the law way too often. I think we see this as early as now in college, where athletes are above getting good grades, being model citizens. They're passed along through high schools. I mean, what are we celebrating here? I mean, you have a 15-year-old who's good at putting a basketball through a fucking hoop. Congratulations. One ACL injury, and they're going to be a fucking, caretaker at the midnight gym. They need their education. And what are we doing here? Even if you do have athletes, okay, congratulations, right? I am a very, very big proponent of NBA and pro sports in general because I think that it massively shifts the conversation and the totality of money going into Black and brown communities. I think that's a really important thing. to combat some of the historic wealth gap that exists between white and black people. Now, let me put it this way. If you do not train these athletes to manage their money properly, if you not educate them properly, if you not hold them accountable to be model citizens, you're not really setting them up for success either. It's very much entrapment, isn't it? You're putting them on a global stage to make an ass of themselves because you deprive them of the education, the accountability, and then you set them up to fail. I don't believe in that. So for me, you take a hard line on any person who has done things like this to women, be that Terrence Davis. And I'm kind of happy, as much as, it sucks to lose a player like Terrence Davis, and maybe some people wanted to take a swing on someone like Josh Primo. I understand the talent, but we must draw a line somewhere. Okay. And yeah, I think some of these allegations are fucking ridiculous, man. Yeah.
On that note, we're in Indiana tomorrow, I think, on a back-to-back, right?
Yep.
Halliburton just dropped like 37, like 16,
Yeah.
and I think they swept. They're playing. It could get ugly tomorrow, man. It could get ugly.
Yeah.
It could get ugly, and I'm all for the blowouts. I'm all for the blowouts. I'm all for it getting ugly. I'm all for Masai and Bobby to be on the hot seat. Something has to change.
I am not for them to be on the hot seat, man, because they might be the only thing dividing you and the worst run 10 years of Raptors history. Because if that board wins, I think people are not paying enough attention to what is happening. Man, Ed Rogers, man. I don't look, man. I lived through that entire era of Richard Petty. Every year I would listen to how, behind the scenes, how much he meddled, how much. Let me put it this way. Would you agree that the James Harden trade was a really bad idea for the Clippers?
Yeah, generally, yes. Yeah, I agree.
You were not very sure about that. That's interesting.
No, because it's getting a little better right now. Russ went to the bench. It's not doom and gloom. The first 4 games, oh my God. Sound the alarms. But yeah.
Congrats. They're 2-0 with Daniel Tice. Okay. So Daniel Tice is the solution. And had the Raptors figured that out, they might have been able to get him instead of Jakob Poeltl. Okay, so here's the thing. I think it was a bad trade. I think it was a bad trade for the wrong team at the wrong time. I mean, James Harden's not a bad player at all, but it's the wrong fit.
And you're saying the owner meddled. You're saying the owner meddled in.
Bro, he didn't just meddle. He literally forced the trade. So they got tired, the Clippers GM and Daryl Morey, I guess, just kind of going back and forth about playing, this sort of game of chicken on who's going to blink first. And the Clippers owner just basically went and talked to the Sixers owner and said, let's get this deal done.
Yeah.
Forced it. And gave up 2 future first-round picks because he doesn't care. He's an impulsive egomaniac and a fucking child. And he's a billionaire. And so many of these fucking billionaires are impulsive, maniacal children. And that's what he did. And that's what Vivek Ranadive did for the first 10, 12 years before he... That's what the Nets owner did. They all fucking do this, man. These are all
they suck the assets dry of that team, leave them deprived on their deathbed with no future for the next 5 years, and they sell it for a profit.
Exactly. Because they are so used to being top dogs in their industry. Whatever led them to their billions, they think you can just transfer, and it's not that easy. Ego is not a good thing. Ed Rogers is an egomaniac like I have not seen in Toronto sports in a while. So, I'm going to be very clear about this. I don't find Masai to be egotistical or, I find him to be proud, which is probably a good thing and sometimes burns him the other way. But I find him to be very loyal. And I don't necessarily want to see who would be installed in his place right now, how quickly they would strip away and make impulsive, short-sighted decisions to pad MLC's pockets to put a contender on the team. Look, man, it's really difficult for big market teams to tear down sometimes. Really difficult. You see how the Knicks did it? Did the Knicks ever properly tear down? Be really honest. They didn't, right? They always stayed in the middle. And it's difficult for these teams because as much as they know that they'll be able to fill the arena, the cost of a big market team, fully going rebuild without a LeBron James type prospect in the door, is immense. Like, it's for TV dollars, ad deals, ticket prices, everything just goes down, concession prices, everything just goes down, and they don't see the value in losing that much money to try and rebuild the right way. So they'll push. If he has his way, he'll push first round picks out the door. He'll push youth out the door for win now moves. Man, I have seen so many disastrous organizations. I don't want the Raptors to turn into one. So that is my feeling. That, look, every time I listen to, while it's not explicit, think about it. Okay, this is going to be very conspiratorial, and maybe evokes some JFK Zephyrdar film type shit. But hear me out, because I think it's pretty straightforward for anyone who wants to draw the crumbs for themselves. Masai Ujiri is not the owner of MLSE. If he is truly at odds with Ed Rogers and several of the board members, and they see it differently, have you noticed the coverage on this team for the last 2 years? Have you noticed how flagrantly, anti-Barnes a lot of the shit has been? You notice how pro-Barnes the front office is. Right? They've held him out of. So why is it that the front office and the coverage, which is created by the team, basically the same fucking company that owns the team, why are they always at odds? Why are they always criticizing the bench? I mean, that it's dog whistle, man. They're criticizing the bench and they're criticizing Barnes. Those are both things that you immediately link back to Masai, right? They're tearing this guy down, right? They're tearing him down. And I realize that it's easy because they're losing, but in a lot of ways, they're also holding his hands. I'm sure of it. Like, I'm okay, I'm not sure of it. I don't want to be sure about something that I'm not sure about. But I am fairly certain that Masai Ujiri cannot do anything that he wants to without the approval of the board. There are certain things I'm sure that he would like to do. Maybe he can't do. Maybe, I don't know. Like, maybe truly the whole decision to hold on to Fred was completely his idea. But maybe there was pushback from the board saying, no, this guy's a champion. This guy's really integral to our jersey sales. This guy's whatever. You have to get a better deal for him. I don't know.
If that's the case, then if that's true, we're fucked. Either way, if that's true.
Well, dysfunction starts somewhere, right? And typically with organizations, as much as trickle down economics don't work, trickle down organizational culture absolutely does work, right? If your CEO is toxic, it goes down to your president, goes down to your VP, goes down to your board, goes down to your fucking staff. Like, next thing you know, you walk into a store or a bank and you feel the toxicity that is coming down from the front office, because it's literally the organization starts top down. I think, as much as I love being part of flat organizations that pretend to be flat, there's always a tone setter. I think that the Raptors culturally changed when their ownership relationships changed. That's just my perspective on it. You didn't hear a lot of Masai versus the board shit like 5 years ago. There was no talk of that. But then suddenly when Masai came up for an extension, it was like, you have people pushing back. He's too expensive. Like, where the hell did you hear that before? I mean, this is a guy, who was the most in-demand executive in the NBA. There were teams that were thinking of throwing equity and ownership stakes at him. And you have an ownership group that is, someone on the ownership group is saying that he's too expensive. And there's like a war within. So, like, you have to think of the broader perspective on, like, how does an organization go from functional kumbaya championship to one of the poster child for dysfunction last year? How did that happen? You think it's just Fred and Nick Nurse? You think it's Scotty being immature? You think it's just Pascal? It cannot be. This started from the top.
Then how does this script flip then? How do we get good basketball hopefully sometime at the end of this season? How do we build something around Scotty within 2 years, hopefully? What needs to happen? Is it something that the players can control, that Masai can control? Is it like you said, is it the ownership that's, needs to see something, which they aren't right now? What is it?
I think they need to be able to sell this idea of this style of basketball around this style of player. And they need to be able to show that there's enough traction in the fan base for a movement towards a new chapter. If the pushback on trading guys like Siakam and Fred VanVleet has always been championship nostalgia, because look, man, MLC is a very, very big company. Rogers, like I have a lot of friends who have worked for MLSC at higher up positions. They've talked about, how data has played a huge part into how that entire organization operates. And quite frankly, in the 21st century, 2023, data is king. It's worth everything. If you work in any major industry at a decent enough level, that data is so important. And so they know how much of their fan base right now is constructed of 2019, hop-ons, right? And you don't necessarily want to lose those people, right? And so measuring out who those people are really supporting, what they're supporting, because this is not like, you have to understand, this is not the Boston Celtics. This is not the New York Knicks, right? The brand itself is not what is keeping people there, right? Like, I think people need to understand that. It's not the brand, it's the team. Like, it's like the individuals on the team are the identification for the team. Like, there are some, I'm sure, who will disagree and they'll say, no, I'm a Raptors diehard. I've been there since 95, whatever. I see it. This fan base is not Celtics, Lakers, Knicks. It's more like Pacers. If we're good, I'll watch. If we're not so good, maybe I won't watch. You know what I mean? There's so many other sports in this city. It's very easy for the casual fan who came in for the championship run to support a winner to immediately tune out and then not come back until you put that winner back on the court and have a real chance at a championship. So I think what you need to prove right now with Darko is that this style of basketball works and that you can actually build a winner around Scotty Barnes. Difficult to prove when anytime you try to do that and anytime you try to play that style of basketball, you have players who are, whether consciously or subconsciously sabotaging it. But I don't know.
So then why don't we see a bench unit with, Scotty, OG, Otto, and two bench guys? Or,
we saw Scotty, OG, and the bench unit today. They struggled.
That's true.
Not?
That's true.
Which is funny because
3 minutes together.
Like historically, at least historically this year so far, Scotty plus OG plus bench unit has been good. Today it was not good. So I don't know.
Or do we just need more San Antonio games? 30 piece,
more Washington,
step back three,
more Washington, more Detroit.
I don't know.
I mean Scotty San Antonio games. Like where he stands out to the casual, where he stands out to the entire fan base as like, wait, how old is this guy again? 22? We drafted this guy? Okay.
Yeah.
And Pascal's quiet.
I would love to think that the power that Masai holds with Larry Tannenbaum and with the franchise and the fan base, but every time we lose another game and the media becomes so critical of Scotty and critical of Masai, and I mean it's gotten so loud. And as much as I can absolutely say that Masai Ujiri has not been perfect, Bobby Webster has not been perfect, you need to look around the league and see how many mistakes other teams are making and compare it to the mistakes you're making and say, is this fair? Like, is this fair? Or are we holding him to some sort of Messiah God level, standard that he previously set, and now he's just human? But he's still a very intelligent human being. He's still making like relatively good decisions that I can see and understand from a basketball perspective, right? Like, I understand Precious Achiuwa as a gamble. I get it completely. It may not pay off. It may pay off. I don't know.
It won't.
I understand you're saying it won't, but like, I mean, it paid off for 2 games and it didn't pay off today. So let's not be creatures of like, like, what have you done for me lately? Like, it looks really good the last 2 games, right?
Really good?
Man.
He looked okay. Malachi Flynn doesn't look really good. He looks okay.
No, Malachi Flynn does not look really good.
He looks okay.
He's had like 4 good games.
We're benching. Like, we this is on a curve. That's what we do with these guys. It's on a curve.
But I mean, like,
we all know it.
Like,
it's on a curve.
Did Cole Anthony look good today?
Yeah, he's not. I mean, he's not surrounded by.
No, fair enough. But I mean, like, okay, first of all, he's surrounded by non-shooters. So, like, I mean, let's be fair. Paolo and
They're
Franz
a team that's
can't
bought
shoot
in.
for
There's a
shit, right?
team that's bought in. There is no alpha male
He was
or
hitting crazy shots.
fake alpha male, right?
No, what I'm saying is like, look, man, Jalen Suggs for the first year, the rookie year, was the worst player in the NBA.
Mm-hmm.
Statistically verified. Okay. Second year, got a little bit better. Third
They
year,
have a
got even
direction.
better.
They have a
Okay.
direction. There's a path.
He was a 5th overall pick who was the worst player in the league for an entire year in the same year that your guy that you picked over the guy that everyone was telling you to pick, right? That almost, I think 80% of GMs probably would have picked Jalen Suggs. Okay. I'm not going to say 100% because there were some GMs that I know for a fact had Scotty top 3, not just top 4. So most GMs were in the consensus that Jalen Suggs was the right pick, especially for this team. You had a guy who today people are going to clown everybody and say, oh, we should have picked Suggs or whatever because they're idiots. This guy was the worst player in the NBA for his entire rookie season. I made a bet with somebody named Simon that Jalen Suggs box plus minus would be lower after 25 games than Delano Banton's. I won that bet. That motherfucker never paid up. I will say this though, like, and I don't forget. You don't pay me, I don't forget. Like a loan shark, don't forget. But that's bad. It's super bad. And after 3 years, I mean, look at the comparison between these two players. I mean, that's a decision your front office made, and it was a tough decision.
Yeah,
It was
that was
so
one.
correct.
That's one. That's
So
the,
what I'm, but
that's the
it's
one
not,
decision.
but it's not the only one, right? Like, you know, Franz is a good pick. Paolo, you pick Paolo over Chet, bro. Are you kidding me? Chet is a way better player. He's gonna be a way better player. He is a way better player. After missing an entire year, he's a better player, right? So this is like, these are not misses that you typically get from the Raptors, right? I mean, so we're just talking draft right now. In terms of team success, how many playoff series have the Magic won over the last 8 years? I'll give you a second. Think about it.
Okay, we're not talking about 8 years though.
But we are.
No,
Because I cannot judge someone
We're
on a
talking about the
1-year sample or a 1-game sample. I have to judge them on the body of work.
yeah,
Because
but
the
your
body
theory,
of work is the knowledge. Like
Mhm.
every organization builds intelligence over time.
okay,
right?
so how long do we how long is the grace period on past success? At what point are you raising your eyebrow? What year?
When the
2028?
when the trailing average of 6 years becomes bad. So basically, if I can look back on 6 years and consistently have to doubt your choices over those 6 years, especially when the first 6 years were so favorable,
So
then I have to say
what year are we in this 6? So what year are we in now?
we won a championship less than 6 years ago, FYI. So
Okay,
just
so
to keep that in
I'm
perspective.
gonna say
We drafted Scotty 3 years ago.
yeah,
We drafted
that's one
Christian
decision.
Coloco 2 years ago. We
That's
drafted Grady
That's
last
still
year.
a question mark. That's still a question mark. That's still a question mark. They don't get kudos for that. Nothing has happened with them yet. There are still ifs.
Paolo is still an if.
Yeah, and so is Chet. He could break his leg tomorrow. That dude's fucking toothpicks taped together.
Knock on wood.
I mean, here's the thing. I don't support results. I support process. Results. Look, man. Look. Let me give you a like perspective on this from my side. I mean, you feel free to
Because
disagree.
Paolo is built like Paolo is going to be a lot more durable.
He's also going to be a lot more bad.
Yeah,
Okay.
but he's going to be on the court. I'm not disagreeing with you that Chet's the better player, but Porzingis' career, he's injury prone. I'd be shocked if he makes it.
Jamal
Please.
Cofield, dude saying Chet is better than Paolo. Wow. The only
Yes.
thing wow is you. It's just you. The only person in the world that thinks this is Orlando fans and you. Okay. Chet is the better player. He is a considerably better player because defense counts. Shooting counts. What are you, stupid? Like, do you live in 1992?
Paolo's
Like,
shooting
what?
well though this year. Last I checked, I was shocked. He was shooting like 39%, something like 37. It was pretty good. But yeah,
He's been decent, but like, I mean, the defense is still a question mark. His impact metrics are nowhere near Chet's, and Chet is playing his first year. I mean, let's not get it twisted. The player types.
Chet's also in a better situation.
Fair. Yeah. You
But
can make the
I
same.
agree. He's the better player. I agree. He's the better player.
Yeah.
But I also think he's in a better role. So-
Anyway, look, here's the point. Like, so Kawhi was a good idea,
Yeah.
right? Okay. Now,
The year
let's say,
after was a good idea. The year after was a good idea.
hang on. Let's say Kawhi gets injured the day before the playoffs. Is it still a good idea?
Yeah,
Okay.
because
So
DeMar wasn't working. Because DeMar wasn't working.
Okay, perfect. So you're supporting process
Yeah, DeMar
over
was,
results,
Yeah.
right? So it may have led. Can you imagine that you traded? Just imagine this. You traded Jakob Poeltl, a first-round pick, DeLon Wright, DeMar DeRozan. Okay. What else did you trade? My God, you traded everything, right? You traded. Okay, hold on. Let me think about this. Jonas Valanciunas, Jakob Poeltl, your two young centers, gone. Best young center duo really in the NBA at that time, gone. You trade DeLon Wright and DeMar DeRozan. So an all-star, all-NBA guy in DeMar. If we're going to call Pascal that, we call DeMar that. All four guys gone. DeMar, Kyle, very unhappy, wants out immediately.
Yeah.
Kawhi comes in. He's done after 1 year. He's injured. He resigns. He signs in LA. You get bounced in the first round without him. Marc Gasol is washed. Danny Green leaves. Can you imagine
we beat Orlando? We lose in the second round. Stop it, Rob. We beat Orlando
without Kawhi.
Yes.
With Fred shooting 10%. Okay.
Okay. Sure. Do you remember there was a game? Kawhi was sick in that first round. Do you remember? He had a game where he was sick. He shot really bad.
We lost the first game against Orlando. FYI.
Yeah, with him on the court.
Sure.
And then we blew him out 4 games straight. Blew him out. And one of the games. Kawhi
okay, fine. You lose second round. Congratulations. This is a team that had championship considerations. So you lose in the second round to Philly. You definitely lose without Kawhi in the second round.
100%.
Okay.
100%.
So now you have no championship. You have no finals appearance, no conference finals appearance, and you have an aging Marc Gasol in place, and you have no draft pick. How do you feel about Masai Ujiri right now? I think a lot of people will be calling to fire him because the projectable outcome on Kawhi was he would get injured because he was an injury-prone player. Okay. But it worked out.
He wasn't. That was one time. That was a one-time incident.
What are you talking about?
It was that 1 year where he sat out.
Injury prone because he has a degenerative injury. Like it's conditional. It's chronic.
He was 27. That was the 1 year he actually missed time.
Fair enough. He was pretty durable. He was pretty durable before that. But yeah. I mean, for a guy who's missed,
and we all knew he had beef with the coach. He lost trust with the organization. That was a weird situation. That wasn't like.
I don't think Kawhi came in as the beacon of health. Okay, let's just put it that way. I think if he was injured and if he refused to play,
but
he didn't want to be traded here.
1 year is degenerative at 27 years old.
I mean, have you seen the 3 years following it?
Okay, but the 3 years haven't happened yet. He was 27, Rob.
There were enough injury concerns at that point with him, with the vagueness of his injury, with the fact that he had missed almost a year for the Spurs, that there were justifiable concerns over his long-term durability.
I agree.
And I don't think he
wasn't going to play for them anymore.
Okay.
He was done
with them. And if I told you that the Raptors traded for Kawhi and Kawhi let it be known that he will not play for the Raptors, he will not dress for the Raptors, he did not ask to be traded here.
I wouldn't believe you because I've never seen that happen in my life. Besides, what's it called? Steve Francis that one time.
Alonzo Mourning failed to report. He retired instead of coming to the Raptors.
Yeah, he's old.
Dude, it happens. Okay, if he was committed to LA and they traded him to Toronto and his organization and his representatives warned Toronto, do not trade for this dude. By the way, he will not come. He can sit out.
I believe he may have done that if he got traded to Charlotte.
You're not really.
What if he got traded to Charlotte? No, theoretically, Rob, if he got traded to Charlotte, would he show up?
I don't know. I doubt it.
I'm just saying. You don't think he felt like he could win a championship?
We're kind of debating in circles here. You're not really hearing me. What I'm trying to say is, if it worked out differently, if any one of the things that were very likely to happen and could have likely happened, at least possible to happen, which is him not wanting to come here, him not wanting to play, him refusing to play through pain, which he did. He played through pain several times through the playoffs to keep the championship odds alive. People don't appreciate that enough. He was limping. He played through so much pain for you. And if he doesn't do all of this, you don't win a championship. Coach Mo, hang on. What I'm trying to say is that you can't just judge everything based on how it turned out. You have to judge it on the process. So
I'm not. And the process the last 3 years have been bad. We can agree.
Bro, everyone acts like the championship was absolutely written in the stars when they traded for Kawhi, and it wasn't. And that's what I'm trying to say. So we're going to support a good outcome because it was good process. but we're not supporting a bad outcome, despite the fact that it is pretty good process. Now, you can say not trading Fred, not trading Pascal is bad process, but we don't know why those trades haven't happened. We also don't know if they're allowed to make those trades, because those guys won a fucking championship with you, and you really just don't have anything left.
There it is right there. So what I'm getting is he's not allowed to. Hypothetically, he doesn't have freedom to make decisions.
I don't know,
because this is not the Masai we know. This way of thinking, like last year, shocked us all. So I would actually agree with this theory.
Look, Masai being patient should shock nobody. It's actually his ace in the hole. And in fact, in a really weird way, his patience and sometimes willingness to wait things out is exactly what got you the championship. He waited out all the failures. He waited for a real star to become available, because let's be honest, Kawhi was a top 2 player in the NBA. No top 2 player in the NBA was available for trade prior to Kawhi. None. KD was never available at all. Not in any package that you could have offered to trade for him at that time. He was in OKC, then he went to Golden State. Neither organization was going to trade him. LeBron was never available for trade. So really, you just had Kawhi. There was the only one player on that level in the entire league during 2013 to 2019 that you could have aimed for, and you waited and waited and waited. You built up assets. You built up this huge asset base. You developed this huge asset base, and you traded for him at the right moment. And then you doubled down by trading for Marc Gasol. This is brilliant.
Beautiful.
And by the way, you traded for Marc Gasol, by the way, when there was no pressure to. You were winning with Jonas Valanciunas. You were winning a lot, actually. You were looking great. They made an adjustment before the adjustment was needed. This front office has shown me their brains many times. They showed it to me while drafting the players they've drafted over the last 5 years. I'm not standing here suggesting that they have been perfect. They have not. But man, I watch every other team make bad decisions that the Raptors would never make in a million years. Draft decisions.
There's a difference. There's a difference this time than there was last time. Last time there wasn't a pivot on the roster. This time there's a pivot on the roster. There's Scotty Barnes. There was nothing on that DeMar Lowry roster. It wasn't JV. It wasn't Lowry. It wasn't DeMar. There was no one on that. Jakob. We knew there was no blue chip on that entire roster.
That's not true.
The only hope for that team.
True. That's not true.
So what?
I mean, I'm being very, very factual that in 2017, 2018, most people did feel that OG Anunoby was a lottery level talent that fell to you because of injuries.
Okay.
And that he had a real future as a Kawhi 2.0. And I was definitely sold that he had that chance. Okay.
If we never traded for Kawhi and we just ran it back and LeBron went west, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you think of that roster? Assuming they just switch Casey out with Nurse.
I think they get bounced against the Bucks or they get bounced against Philly. There's no chance in hell that DeMar DeRozan and Kawhi Leonard are comparable players. Even though their stats look similar, they're not. And you needed every ounce of Kawhi to get past Philly. Philly was really good. If DeMar stays on this roster, you get bounced versus Philly. 100%.
I don't agree with OG being a blue chipper. I don't agree.
Yeah. I see Jamal Cofield here in the chat, but I don't really think you're real. I also see SC, and I don't think you're real. I'm kind of doubting everyone being real, and I don't want someone to come on and flash us or some shit like that. So, yeah.
Well, look, guys, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man.
Looking forward to the game tomorrow. Hoping we get some better transition defense, some better half-court defense. I mean, come on. Look. I tune in for these games, I tune in for these games if I have time. And I think I'll have time tomorrow. So I'm trying to see something happen, right? See something change.
I think you're going to see ball movement, and I think you're going to see what a really great transition offense around a brilliant player looks like. Tyrese Halliburton has been awesome this year. He might be the fastest passer in the NBA.
He could win MVP.
He could.
That's not out of the realm of possibility.
He certainly could. Yeah. I don't know.
Anyway, guys, looking forward to it. See you guys.
Anyways, Rob, I'm gonna go. But I agree with your Masai take and Bobby, but really it started to get really weird at the trade deadline. And I'm sure you agree. At that moment, Like the faith you had of what they were going to do at that deadline and what happened.
Yeah, I mean,
That,
it takes two.
that,
It
that was
takes
spooky. That was spooky.
it takes two to tango. On the one hand, on the other hand, at some point, I think this team has one massive blind spot, which is they overvalue their own players. They always seem to have overvalued their own players, and it's not really like working, right? Like at some point, you do have to get to a point where you're like, okay, I don't think this is going to. I don't think that the league sees Pascal the way you guys see Pascal, right? And I don't think the league saw Fred the way they saw Fred. It's funny. I was actually revisiting one of my Fred slander videos from 2 months before the season ended. I called him to Houston. I said, there's only one team that could possibly start you, and it's the Houston Rockets, so maybe you'll go there. Then, I think 5 days or 4 days before he got traded, I made a reel of him in a Rockets jersey. Do you remember that on Instagram? Where like it's the office and everyone's celebrating, and then they look at the screen and it's him in Houston.
Yeah, I remember that.
Do I get credit for breaking Fred to Houston? I should. It was on the wall. It was on the wall the whole time. They had the money. He had the interest. He was going to go to the highest bidder. The Raptors couldn't match it. They wouldn't match it because of all the pressure, I think, from maybe the higher ups, but also from the fan base.
I messaged you on Instagram where it was like, you can't make a trade for Pascal. I mean, you can, but in terms of perception, like you're all NBA championship player and you trade him for like Harrison Barnes, Kevin Huerter. It's like you can't even, a casual fan can't even conceptualize that. You trade him for
casual fans. I don't care. I want Kevin Huerter on this team, man. Like he would help so much.
When you talk about the numbers and Siakam fans and ratings, it's like,
bro, they can all go to Sacramento with him. They can go to Sacramento with him. Okay, we will export them. We will send them by boat. Okay, around the Arctic, around the North Pole, down to California. Okay, it'll be a nice, refreshing, breezy ride. I don't know, to get some perspective on life. I don't know, but man, like, I mean, I'm done with these Pascal Siakam stands, yo. Like,
for the record, I've never met like a Pascal Siakam super fan in real life. Never did.
You never will.
You
never will. You never will. These people do not leave their house. They are, yo, bro. I banned. Okay, so here's the funny thing. So I called out Samson on Twitter, and I said, like this coverage on Siakam and Barnes has not been very fair and not very balanced. And he was just like, you're misrepresenting my work, blah 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 blah. So, anyways, so now I banned a bunch of people from this community from commenting on our videos, and I noticed them now going over to Raptors Republic Samson's videos and complaining that he's too biased against Siakam.
Seriously?
I was like, yo, he says one good thing about Scotty in his fucking post-game live, and these fucking idiots who've been blowing up. And I thought it was just me. I was like, man, I am like the resident Siakam hater. But bro, these guys cannot take it. They cannot take anyone who does not see Siakam the way they see Siakam. And they see Siakam as a top 10 player in the NBA. They see him as an MVP guy. And if anyone dares to suggest,
these people can't be real. I swear to God, they can't be real.
Oh, they're totally real. And I wouldn't be surprised that this Russo fucker is. And it's just their level of delusion meshed with their level of unemployment, meshed with their level of passion, is a combination that is truly cultish.
With their unbalanced diet. I'm sure.
Yeah, probably. Like meshed with, I don't know. Like these people are the weirdest creatures on Twitter. I've never met anything like it, man. Ever. I mean, I've seen super fans of other fans. Like maybe there's like someone who just can't stand when you talk about Malachi the wrong way, or maybe there's someone, who went to college with him or something, or maybe there's like a big OG supporter or even a big Scotty supporter. I'm a pretty big Scotty supporter. But man, I've never seen anything like this. Like I have never seen a sub fan group that is so absolutely deluded about the player they root for.
Yeah.
It would be like if you met a fan base that thought that Jonathan Kuminga was like the best player in the 2021 draft or something. And they just like, but look, he had 4 blocks this game. Nobody else had 4 blocks this night. He is the best.
Yeah. It is despise Julius Randle. They hate him. Man. They hate him.
The Knicks fan base, yo, they'll boo him straight up.
Not play that shit. They hate this dude.
You know, it's so funny. Like there are so many fan bases that have no issue. Okay, this is funny. Now we
They
got
know
Dwight
he's not
Howard
it.
in
They
the
know
chat.
he's
This
not
is
it.
hilarious. Yeah. To Salvatore Russo, if you're trying to troll me right now, bro, you just make me laugh. All these little funny names. You got Blake Wong, Sam, Ghostface, and Dwight Howard. Ghostface, if you're actually real, because I know that there is an actual Ghostface, just type in the chat that you're real, and I'll let you on. But
I'm just really looking forward to what this roster looks like at the start of next season. That I can't wait to see what the start of next year's roster looks like.
I mean, if you
I don't think anybody can predict what that would be. Like at this point, it's a mystery to everybody.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I would absolutely look to. I mean, I would not go for Zach LaVine. I remain pretty
No.
committed on that. I don't think he moves the needle for you. But I do like this Harrison
stop
Barnes,
believing.
Kevin Huerter thing because
Yeah.
you get two guys who don't really have an ego, who buy into team. The more of these guys you have in leadership positions, the more it's like, and I mean, you know, the Dennis Schroeder thing is a little bit weird to me because, I mean, on the one hand, he's played pretty well. Like, I mean, from an analytics point of view, from a box score point of view, he's played pretty well. He's in the wrong role. I think it hurts your offense in ways that maybe you're not apparent on the box score, right? Like, I think he's not necessarily the best player.
Does not pass up a shot. He does not pass up a shot.
That, and I mean, like, he's
They're
not
going in
really...
though. They're going in.
Exactly. Would you trade for Vooch? No, I would not. Absolutely not. Wow. Oh my God. Jesus Christ. No. No. Yeah, I mean, he is. He's like 32, 33. I don't know. I'm cool with the role players package, man. I understand you're gonna lose the day. You know, you'll lose the ESPN vote on it. How did the Raptors give up Pascal Siakam? But man, it doesn't even matter. If he plays well over there, it doesn't matter. Like some of these people, they're like, you know, it's like if you have an ex, right? And she's like on a beach vacation with this dude and she's super happy. Do you sit there and like scroll through her photos like, oh, that could have been me? Or do you just realize that different people are different people with different people? You know, like I don't even think that Pascal Siakam, it's necessarily fair to put him in an offense that lacks spacing. Like Dennis Schroeder and Jakob Poeltl not doing very much for him either. But I also don't think it's fair to Scotty to have to play with a guy who, when he goes off ball, just fucking lazily jogs around, setting half-ass screens and refuses to cut into space and just kind of like jogging up and down the court. It's just not right. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know. Recruiter dude, if you're actually calling in, again, verify down there. I'm not letting in anybody. Oh my God, we got Ghostface, Blake Wong, Sam, Recruiter dude, and trans women. Oh my God, these names are crazy. Yeah, definitely going to be going to verified callers. So I hope everyone has a Facebook account. Oh, Recruiter dude, it is me. Okay, good. Wait, that scares me. Recruiter dude, is it actually you?
Yeah, it's me.
Oh, thank God. Okay.
Right,
I feel like I'm in a scary movie, man. I feel like I'm in literally like in Scream, you know? Like I feel like someone's gonna come on and be like, what's your favorite scary movie? And I'll be like, damn it. Because you never know, right? When someone turns on a camera, it's live. Like there is a massive risk, right?
You know, your name got a lot of traction on Real GM recently, and I wouldn't be surprised if it was some like troll from there.
On Real GM?
Yeah, there's a lot of like grifting. You know what? It's become really toxic, and it's when you're on a platform where you're just typing like incessantly, and it's the same people just basically echoing the same points over and over again. And it used to be a refuge for like analytics and like some understanding. Now I'm like deferring to your channel because I just, and again, I empathize with people who are trying to make sense of this season, but it's still early. And anyway, but don't even bother going online there. Don't. It's stupid. Someone created a thread like who are the worst and the best like creators or content providers, and like it's like whatever,
I'm assuming I lost that straw poll, right? Pretty handily.
Well, surprisingly, like people are catching on to Will Liu, and you called it. I remember, like you mentioned that like the whole thing with him talking to Schroeder, him and like his buddy, and like it's a little bit tacky.
Yeah.
It's a little bit beneath him. I mean, when he had a modest, like when you think about the early days of Raptors Republic and stuff, like, and then you go from that, and then then you get the big job, and of course, when you're talking, you have like access, but
He wasn't very good at Raptors Republic, just to be clear about that,
yeah,
in my
yeah.
opinion. I don't know what you thought, but
He's a fanboy, but it's okay. Like that's fine. Like there's people have different styles. I mean, you're more on the analytics side, and other people are kind of more like, there's a variety. Like there's a different diet of different creators. It's fine.
That's fair. That's fair.
It's
Yeah.
fine. Yeah, I think I'm not going to be on long. I just like and I'm getting this from Coach Mo a little bit and some of the other callers, and you guys. It was a good debate, and there is this lingering anxiety with this season. If it's going to be like last year, and of course it's a process. I think the anxiety is grounded in when we get to the trade deadline and what people are expecting, and then worst case scenario, nothing happens, and then you have 4 players playing for contracts, and then you're that's I think that's the Armageddon outcome, and then I don't know how. It's difficult for you because you're doing a post match like every game. Like I don't know how we keep a sane conversation going while I'm watching Siakam or Chua or Gary basically play for contracts, because they're desperate. Like they want to get paid, and I can't blame them. But like that would be the like what am I like? What's the point of the season now? At that point, right? It's a little bit early to have that conversation, but it is creating a bit of anxiety in the fan base. Like you have to recognize that. I don't know what you think.
Sure. I mean, I do, and I feel it. And that's why I think it's so important to win the battle of opinion on this, right? That like when people come out and they are, saying like Scotty is a scrub, we need to turn the ball over to Siakam, etc. We need to. I mean, real GM. You're talking real GM as a toxic dumbass place. The title of their post game thread was "Should have traded Scotty for Dame today."
Yeah.
Before there was enough outcry to change that.
And we're barely 10 games in this, or we're just past 10 games in the season.
14. We're 14 games
14
in,
games,
and Scotty's been the 5th or 6th best player in the league according to APM, and you should have traded him for Dame, a $40+ million player in his mid 30s. What a ridiculous, idiotic place. And look, man, I think. Can you imagine watching like Jerry Springer on loop for like 24 hours a day for like a week? Can you imagine the person you would be after that 7-day stretch?
It's Guantanamo Bay level torture. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So
yeah.
It fundamentally shape who you are, how you converse, how you think. It's bad content. It's terrible content. The Raptors have played such an ugly, disgusting brand of basketball for the last 2.5 to 3 years. After, quite frankly, playing pretty decently well-branded basketball for a few years, being competitive, that this fall off, not to mention the introduction of so many casuals into this fan base after the championship run, not to mention, the media space shift, it's such a combination of factors. I think losing only exacerbates this further, right? But just the diluted perspective on what basketball really is. I mean, I'm shocked that people can come in on the championship run and then not identify that brand of basketball hasn't been played in years in Toronto. And then to try to silence, shush, shame any person who would ever want to bring that back is quite crazy, right? The people who are critical of me personally, man, go back and check my fucking takes. Go back and check my takes for last year. I mean, I don't think I've been wrong a lot about this team. I called it pretty much straightforward. I mean, maybe I was a little too high on Precious at some point, or maybe I was a little too high on some Joey's camp or something like that. But like, I don't necessarily think that I have any blood on my hands in terms of like, oh man, I really wanted us to trade for Jakob Poeltl, and we did, and we fucked up. I was pretty consistent. We don't need a center. That's not the issue. That's not the problem on this team. Need to trade Fred. Need to trade Siakam. So I am comfortable in my analysis, and I'm comfortable in where I'm approaching this from ethically, and I'm growing to be quite comfortable thanks to that person who messaged me a couple of days ago. I'm growing quite comfortable with the critique and the trolling as well. It doesn't bother me anymore. I just block very, very fast.
No,
Very
you have
fast.
to be like above it, which can be difficult sometimes. But you can overcome these things with like it's funny. It's like empathy, because there is this zombie in the psychosphere that is eating people's brains and mine. Sometimes when you have a really bad loss, and you've kind of like you're missing the entire point of the season, and then we have to go through these enormous diatribes about like the history and we should have tanked this year or that year, and it becomes like a cancerous thing. But it's all grounded in empathy, because like people are like, you have your day job, and then it's just like, okay, the game's on tonight, and it's some type of refuge you're looking for, and then they just basically put up a fucking like stinker. And it's just like, what the hell? Like, they didn't even show up tonight. Tonight wasn't like a talent issue so much as it was just like, I don't even know if they really care about the tournament. And I'm not just like, that might sound insane, but maybe that's keeping my sanity, right? But again, these idiots on like Real GM and then like on Reddit and everything, it's just, I really just have empathy, because I'm no better or worse. We're fans of the team, and people lash out and they make ridiculous claims because they're basically lost. And the empathy really, when you get down to it, is like, we don't know what they're planning. And I remember calling you a couple of times last year, like, what was the plan? What was what was Masai and Bobby thinking? Is there anybody there to balance them out, to say like, you just made the comment earlier, you guys are overvaluing these players? It's like you're the parents of your friends who should have sold their house like a month ago. They waited too long, and now they want that extra like $100,000 that's never going to happen, or it might come, but they need to sell now because dad has cancer and they have to move close to the oncologist. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, when do but again, they're the ones who brought us the championship, and that was a good debate you had earlier, because like that kind of grounded me. Let's just like, yeah, let's not lose track. Let's not lose sight of our sanity here. But yeah, no, there's anxiety in the air for sure, a little bit. Like, you can't deny it.
I think it's really important to understand what people want. Like, what do people do this for? Like, why would anyone watch sports? What is the value received, right? And for a lot of people, I think, as I said before, it's escapism. It's and so, I understood very implicitly when Kaya messaged me like a couple of days ago, and she messaged this thing about like, people aren't going to see it the way you're going to see it just because you're saying this. Like, you're not going to understand Scotty's 6 boxes minus. They don't see that. They don't care about that. So stop trying to hammer it home. It's not going to work. And I get it. I just saw a frigging hoop highlight poll: not Scotty versus Wemby. Wemby versus Chet. Who's going to win Rookie of the Year? Wemby won in a landslide. I don't understand this. This is craziness, right? It's craziness. People aren't watching. 90% of people have watched Wemby play 7 times and watched Chet maybe play once max. This is disproportionate. It's never going to work. It doesn't matter. I can go there. I can go on Twitter, complain. I can tell people the numbers. It's not going to matter, because most people are losers.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah.
Most people are committed to their worldview. They're attached to it. They're not going to re-question. They're not going to think about like, what am I doing wrong here? They do the same thing over and over and over again. I mean, I can't believe I'm quoting another Ben Affleck script, but I'm going to go for it. The town. Most people wake up every single day and say they're going to change their lives, and they never do. It's true. There's a lot of people like that. People hammer down, double down, triple down, because what is it? The devil I know is more comfortable than the one I don't know. So people are afraid of change. Consistently, most people are. I find most people are very petrified or afraid of change. And I think people are afraid of things they don't know. I think people are afraid of things that generally intimidate them intellectually. I think people don't like people who sound smarter than them. It threatens whatever insecurities they have. So I'm not sitting here like trying to pretend that like I'm going to be able to convince people to like a particular brand of basketball when they objectively, prefer this other one, and they're also double stupid because they can't challenge their own conviction. Like they're not coming at this from the approach of like, okay, show me why this other thing works. The minute we have one of those people, oh, we can have a great debate, right? But if I can't get a show me, then it's just two people kind of talking at each other, and it'll never work, right? So many of these Twitter debates, nothing you say is ever going to shift what they were going to say back anyway. Nothing.
Yeah.
There's no dialogue here. It's straight monologue on monologue on monologue on monologue, right? You can say the Raptors are 10 points per game better, or 10 points per possession better if Scotty runs this type of play. Well, then why can't he handle the ball? What? He actually has pretty low turnovers. Yeah, but I saw him like dribble the ball off his hands twice, and he had 5 turnovers in this game. And it's just like, oh my god, like how do you argue with people so stupid? You can't. You're completely like arguing like on two completely different wavelengths, and it's never going to work. And yeah, as I said, like this fan base is probably panicked, justifiably so, man. I mean, this organization has really set them up for a bit of a panic, haven't they? You have two, three, 4 free agents, and then you have a point guard who's kind of come in with this bet on yourself mantra.
But don't forget the intro that you gave to, I think it was the previous live, and it was a long intro, and you said like Scotty and OG are on an island as basically some of the best two-way players in the league, and how quickly this can change. And any other generation, I mean, I'm turning 40 soon. Like, it sounds like bullshit, but we lived through the championship.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, everyone knew where they were when Kawhi hit that shot. Everyone knew where they were when we beat the Bucks. We came back, storming back to win that series. It was almost like fiction. Like, that's just not supposed to happen. Like in the NBA, in the league that Michael Jordan played in, like it's fantasy, but it happened. And it happened extremely quickly. And I think there is some groundwork here to have something dramatically good. And of course, games like this make you question everything. And it's going to be it'll be the same thing again and again, in another iteration and another iteration. But
what's funny?
The process, though, is basically like, just, can you get these guys to follow somebody? And
yeah,
I'm hooked. Like, I'm following Scotty, hook, line, and sinker. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what I've attached my bow to. And it's not because of this show. It partly, but like, anyone can see that he has the heart of a champion. And like, that's that Lowry, like mentality, right? And I'm not saying it's 100%, but it's the best we got, really. I mean, that, because otherwise, like, what are you going to do? Like, our whole future is basically pinned on this, and that's fine, because that's how the NBA works, really.
Yeah, I mean, where are the OKC Thunder really without Shea, right? Where's the San Antonio Spurs without Wembanyama? I mean, they have our pick and they have their pick, but that's about it. Like, organizations are built around stars because stars have such a disproportionate effect on what you can do around them. Because again, when you have 5 players on the court, it really helps when one of them is operating in the 99th percentile among all NBA players. There's an immediate advantage for just, again, like, stars impact winning in basketball more than I think any other sport that's not an individual sport. So it's kind of funny, actually, that basketball is so individualized, more so than soccer, or more so than football. It's basketball that is like always about the Michael Jordan. You know what I mean? Do you feel that way? Like, I feel basketball is very individualized, more so than baseball, more so than any other team sport. And I think it's just because there's so few players on the court at once that you can really feel the individual impact. One guy can just go and score like I don't know, 13 points in 40 seconds, like what Tracy McGrady did. Like, when have you ever? I don't know if I don't watch enough hockey, but does a guy ever score like 4 goals by himself, like in
Rarely,
one
if
period?
ever. Yeah.
Exactly. But like, especially like in one period, or like especially like in 45 seconds of one period, that would be ridiculous. It would be unheard of, right? It's impossible. So the impact is not, it's not just even, and also like the way our brains calculate momentum and score, right? Like, there's so many scoring opportunities in basketball and one individual. So there's so many scoring opportunities and so few people, that one person really does have such a disproportionate effect on how you see the game, how you see your team, how you see. It's funny when you were talking about the Kawhi thing. I tried to trace back to my own thoughts about that championship roster, and I remember thinking it was a house of cards. I remember thinking that Kawhi was gone regardless of what happened. I remember thinking there was nothing that was going to hold him here. I remember thinking that Kyle Lowry was probably, going to demand a trade or, very soon be out. I didn't believe in Pascal Siakam as the guy on the next iteration at all at the time. He surprised me the next year for sure. I remember thinking in that moment that this is not my high point as a Raptor fan, believe it or not. When we won that
Wow.
championship, I was very relieved. My high point as a Raptor fan was ironically 2 places. Number 1 was Vince Carter Philly series. That was probably my high point. My second high point was Andrea Bargnani's rookie season, where
Really?
I saw the potential of this European movement style based offense, and I thought about what Bargnani and Bosch could be as stretch bigs in a new NBA. It didn't materialize. Bargnani fell off a cliff the next year. Bosch was out within 2 years. It never worked. But I just thought Brian Colangelo has come from Phoenix, former executive of the year, just won executive of the year again. He's brought in this new roster. It works. Garbajosa will get healthy. Jose Calderon, TJ Ford. And the next thing you know, everything's gone. Just everything's out the door. It was so short-lived. I have a belief that peaks are 24 to 30. Don't want to build around a player who's 29 and start a new peak or start a new championship window. So typically, if I was to look around the NBA right now and say, like, who really has an opening here? You look at teams like Orlando, you look at teams like OKC, and you say, this is the opening. Their stars are 24 to 21. They have a competent roster. They have decent pick equity that they can parlay into like a win now move, like somewhere down the line. And they have relative cap flexibility. They don't have any hampering contracts. This is a team that can compete for 5 years. I'm all about windows. I don't care about championships. I want championships, but like I'm very process driven. I'm not results driven. You know what I mean? So my view is the Portland Trailblazers from 1999 to 2002 put out one of the most competent and best rosters that I can think of that money could buy at the time. They didn't win a championship. Shaq and Kobe existed, but it was good process. Sacramento Kings, 1999 to 2004. Great process. Great basketball. Every single year you had a chance. Indiana Pacers, Detroit Pistons, early 2000s up until mid 2000s. Great process. One championship between them. No championships for the Pacers. I think one finals appearance for the Pacers around Jalen Rose, Austin Crozier, and Reggie Miller. Great process, though, right? You're not always going to win, but you want great process. The Raptors put all of their chips in to a 1-year window. If you believed, as I believed, that Kawhi wasn't going to come back. To me, it was hard to buy into something that I knew was ending. But I'm happy it happened. I'm happy they got one out of the way. But my thing is, I don't care about some Damian Lillard, Kawhi, Kevin Durant type of shit where you give yourself a 1-2 year thing. No, I want to build it the right way. I want to build it the way that the Bulls built it. I want to build it the way the Celtics built it. I want to build it the way the Lakers built it around Magic. I want to build it that way, where you give yourself a sustained window of 7 to 8 years to win championships.
Don't forget what you said though on the last live, that in fact I think you used the Thunder as a point where Shai's ready to win right now, and it can just fall apart like in a blink of an eye. Like, these things are never a guarantee. And what was really powerful about that, I remember when you said, like, was thinking about the peaks. You were listing them off on the live. Like I was thinking about all these players I watched throughout my life. Like what were their peaks? Like what was like I grew up watching like Hakeem Olajuwon. What was Olajuwon's peak?
27.
What, yeah, 27, 28. Shaq, Charles
26,
Barkley, Steve Nash.
25.
Steve Nash was a bit older.
Nash was later. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nash's peak was like closer to 30, but yeah, he was rare.
But like Scotty's peak might be like 25.
It could be 23, dude. Like that's the point.
Yeah.
Like there were players on that list who peaked at 24. Vince peaked at 24. Tracy peaked at 23. I mean, in terms of value replacement is not the be all end all. Maybe we can look at box
No, I
stats.
know.
Maybe we can look at playoff stats. Typically, I look at it this way: athletic peak, speed peak, strength peak, skills peak. You want ideally to get as close to your skills peak when you're still in your other peaks, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
LeBron James was freaking beastly. I mean, he's still beastly. I don't know how the hell he's doing it, man. But like, I mean, it's insane. But that dude has taken care of his body to the point where he is somehow so, I mean, he was, I mean, I remember watching a sports science episode on him, the greatest athlete in all sports ever.
Yeah.
Like probably.
Easily, hands down. Yeah.
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 Like, I mean,
Yeah.
straight line driver, flexibility, hip mobility, everything was just, it was insanity to watch that guy. I realized some people jumped higher. I realized some people dunk better, but like, man, there's no athlete in any sport that has been better than LeBron. And you're seeing it and the dividends that are still paying off in his late 30s. But him taking care of his body helped. Him actually developing his skills and getting much, much better as a shooter has helped. Becoming better as a post player has helped. All of these things have helped. His immense work has helped. That being said, LeBron James today is still not the player he was when he was 27.
Yeah.
It's never going to be that way. His intensity is never going to be there. His defense can never get back there. Right now, he's like, I think, 4th or 5th in the NBA in EPM. That's mainly due to offense. It's not because of defense right now. So that two-way level impact that Kawhi was giving you in 2016, it's not coming back.
It's gone. It's gone forever, isn't that
right?
Like, that's essentially. I mean, people have to think about that and contemplate that for a second.
And I mean, like that doesn't mean that. Like, so let's say, for instance, Scotty Warp peaks at 24 because that will be his athletic peak, speed peak, strength peak, skills peak, maximizing. But he'll continue to become more skilled, more intelligent, more all that stuff. So let's say his VORT peak is going to be that, but maybe his box plus minus and efficiency peaks and shooting peaks are going to be closer to 27. It doesn't matter when you're talking. It matters like at some point, the value replacement figure is what he's doing for your baseline value across the board. It's not end value, which is to say like closing lineup, final shots, final plays, final decisions. This stuff, it can still be excellent even in your 30s. But the workhorse, like how much are you elevating the actual win total of my team stuff, that is the VORT peak. So Tracy McGrady at 23 can do more to floor raise your overall win total than at 26. However, at 26, he may be a better player and he might make better decisions, but he'd be less durable. He'd be less defensively active. He'll be playing fewer minutes. So all that stuff. So I mean, I think it's a good idea to time your championship window with your star, with like the year before your star hits their WART peak, and then continue building a roster that makes sense around them, unlocks them, synergizes them, and then try to aim for 4 or 5 years. You can't really aim longer than 3 years really in the NBA, but try to aim for 4 or 5 and see what happens. Because you know what? Like, I mean, let's be real. Scotty could easily go to LA, he can go to Miami, and no one is going to be surprised by that, right? He's a big time talent. He wears shorts around winter. I mean, God damn it, right? So you don't have forever with these players. You never do. And I hope that, you know, fans realize that you never have forever with these dudes. And we're so used to guys like Fred and Pascal and like these kind of like low end, you know, talents that blossomed into big time talents for you, that we just don't realize that high leverage, like high level lottery talents really do pick their place. Like Tim Duncan almost left San Antonio to go to Orlando.
Oh, really? Oh, I don't remember that.
Yes. It was done. And do you know this is what I heard back then. The decision to go to Orlando was nixed by basically Tim Duncan when they refused to let his wife travel on planes with him.
That I didn't know. that I didn't know.
So I believe
That's
that was
pretty
Doc. I believe it was Doc Glenn Rivers who put the kibosh on that. So you could have had Tim Duncan and Tracy McGrady and Grant Hill in Orlando. That would have been a hell of an Eastern Conference champion for the next 5-6 years. Or, I mean, maybe not. Maybe, Grant Hill continues to stay injured, but I think it would have put less of a load on Tracy to carry so much early on. But yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, so I mean, like, you just never know, right? Like, I mean, you think about like the Chicago Bulls with Derrick Rose, Luol Deng, and Joakim Noah, Jimmy Butler. At least it's one of my favorite teams. I love this team. The construction of that team, I was like, oh my god, thank God. Like the NBA is so much better with the Bulls are good, right? As opposed to the Bulls being trashed for like the last 7 years. That lasted it was done. Look at Jay Williams. When they drafted this generational point guard out of Duke, he was like supposed to be the best thing, and then boom, 1 year, motorcycle injury, done, career done.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Same thing with, I mean, bringing Tracy McGrady to Houston. Tracy and Yao were supposed to win championships. Did it happen? No. The 1 year they get out of the finals, they get out of the first round is when Tracy doesn't play, and it's with Ron Artest and shit. So there's so many. I mean, even look at the OKC Thunder. I realized that was a comedy of errors by a small market team refusing to pay out. But like, my God, they went to the finals as a bunch of 22 and 23-year-olds thinking we'll be back 15 times. They were never back again.
That's a great point. People forget about that team.
Yeah.
Like, it reminds me how old I am. I mean, like, that's a great point. I remember when people were clamoring, no, we have to do what this is back when we were, there was this internal drama about like tanking or not to tank. And right. I think basically at that time, Lowry and DeRozan were still kind of like forming a partnership, but the shining light to the West was like this framework for, no, we have to find our next Durant. We have to do exactly what Oklahoma's doing. And it just never materialized. And okay, like, there is a degree of luck. Let's not kid ourselves, but it's so fleeting. And by the way, when you were listing off the it's kind of like a vector, like those different apexes for peaks. I'm trying to like think of like great defensive wings in NBA history that are like north of 27, like all NBA, like small forwards, or like.
There are very few players that, I mean, defense is one of those weird things that like you can remain smart at it. Scottie Pippen, I remember Scottie Pippen with the Blazers, and there was like this one play against the Lakers, and he just read this play like he read it 7 seconds ahead of time and got in the blocking the driving lane for the charge. And I remember thinking, oh man, like what this Blazers team would look like with 96 Scotty or 93 Scotty would be like a championship every year. But the gap and the fall off, he was still good. He was a really good player. Scottie Pippen with the Blazers was a really good player. If you played NBA 2K, he was still rated 94. Okay. But man, the gap and fall off athletically between the Pippen who led the Jordanless Bulls in 94, 95 or 93, 94 versus the Pippen who was with the Blazers, it was night and day. I mean, Charles Barkley, Hakeem Olajuwon. The weirdest thing about NBA athletes is they still look like themselves when they fall off. That, I think, is the weirdest part about it, right? Tracy McGrady with Detroit still looked like Tracy McGrady. He don't look like an old man. He still looked like Tracy McGrady. Vince Carter with the Hawks or with the Nets, like towards the end, or with the Mavericks or with the Magic or whatever, with the Phoenix Suns. My God, he played on a lot of teams. He still looked like Vince. But man, the impact was so diminished. If you ever, look at a guy's like real like box plus minus like throughout the years, like here's a consistent pattern that seems to develop. And if box plus minus is the holy grail of impact, we'll just pretend it is for a second. So let's say someone like, I don't know, let's say superstar X, right? He'll be like 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, 10, 11, 11, 5, 2, 2, 1, 0, 0, negative, 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 negative. That's the career. The gap is so tremendous. Like when that peak ends, man, people don't understand. It's so. But what's funny is, meet that guy in a YMCA when he's 20 years removed from retirement, and try to play on one-on-one, and he'll beat you 101 to nothing.
Yeah,
guaranteed.
Yeah,
Like Kenny the Jet Smith, Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, any one of these guys, these, guys who are 50 plus now, Michael Jordan at 60, and none of these guys are losing in pickup to an average, McDonald's All-American today, probably like maybe to a McDonald's All-American who's got a major speed advantage, but like most players in the world would not touch them. The gap between even like a really good, I was watching some high school players today. One of them is King something. He's out of Ohio. He's 15 years old, extremely ambidextrous, finishes with both hands, averaging like 30 plus points per game. He's crazy good. This 15-year-old would mop the floor with like most college players in Canada. He would whoop them. The gap between an actual NBA prospect, much less an NBA player, much less an NBA player in their prime, much less a player, it's so big. It's so big. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's something
it's rarefied. No, you're shining a light on like the rarefied air that is the NBA and how finite it is. And I remember one of the first times I called in, and you made a great point earlier about Kemba Walker. And I remember Kemba Walker as like a young player. Like the guy could jump out of the gym. Like he was just insanely fast, athletic, like bursty. And he came and he went like so many before him. And it's like you didn't even notice it. And it's just that, again, like I'm repeating myself, but like that fine line, like when you just can't stay in front of your man anymore. And it's like, and it's over. And invariably OG will reach that point. So will Scotty. But I mean, there's time. And so I guess my optimism is kind of like, it's founded in like this idea that, okay, like, yes, it's an offensive league. We're still trying to hold on to this defensive identity and like possession oriented basketball, like a sort of a workhorse team. And there's still like a roadmap here.
Scotty's not twitchy though. Scotty's not twitchy. He's never been twitchy. His entire game right now is predicated on IQ. That's never going to go away. The second part of his game is predicated on strength. That's not going away. Then it's size and length. That's also not going away. Scotty right now at 22 may be able to do things defensively that he won't be able to do at 32, but there's very little offensively he's doing right now that he won't be able to do at 32. This is one of those weird players that might actually age very, very, very well, especially if the jump shot is real, which I suspect it will be. So I don't know. I don't like to project out 10 years with players because you just never know. Things can happen. They can leave. They can go somewhere else. They can do whatever, right? But if Scotty stays for 10 years, you have 10 years of great basketball. And it's something that I noticed with Magic as well. Even after he put on some weight, still a hell of a player. Still a hell of a player because his game was never really predicated on anything that went away. His game was predicated on vision, size, intelligence. So defensively, he slipped. He started playing more in the post. Game sort of changed a little bit. Scotty already plays in the post. What do you want? Scotty has like fine wine. Scotty
has Draymond like IQ, like awareness, like it's a budding, but I mean he's just a way more talented, naturally gifted player, obviously. Like he's like
he it's weird. Like today watching the game against the Magic, especially when he picked it up in the second quarter, when he started like really playing with some force and intensity, which is what I wish he'd played like the whole game. It felt like Scotty was playing. It felt like Scotty belonged on the Magic. The way they were playing is the way he was playing, like the quick pass and the dart up the court and like the block or the steal or whatever, like the hustle, the rebounding, the skying for the rebound. He was the only player really playing with that level of force and energy. And it felt kind of weird. I don't know. It's sort of a random thought. I often wonder if he had ended up falling to the Orlando Magic or the Golden State Warriors, how different that would have been for his career and stuff. So yeah, would have sucked for us.
I'm just like this in-season tournament thing is just not even. It's immaterial to me right now. I can't care. I can't afford to care about it right now because like we're just
that we have leaders in our locker room. Like Scotty was asked about it. He seemed very nonchalant. Pascal was asked about it. He said, there's no difference. Like, I'm watching these games, okay? I'm watching a lot of them. there is a fucking huge difference in terms of how teams are playing these games. Okay, all of them.
Yeah.
From day one, that was apparent. And you have an NBA player who's supposed to be your leader, your highest paid player, who's just like, oh, I tune in, and then I'm not like really that interested, so I just wait till the fourth quarter, and then and I'm just like, bro, like, does Pascal Siakam really watch basketball games like my 4-year-old nephew? Yeah, he does. He actually does. This is fucking crazy. Like, how can you be a professional basketball player and you don't see the intensity difference? You don't see this? Like, are you crazy or are you downplaying it? Like, you cannot be this stupid, right? Like, this is insanity to me. So, I mean, and it just felt like, the people that seemed to be on board about this were Gary. Like, Gary seemed to be like, yeah, let's get it. Let's get the money. Let's whatever. I think Dennis Schroeder seemed to offer some sort of positive, but it doesn't seem like the leaders of this team. It doesn't feel like Darko. Anyone really seemed to be all that motivated to win this thing, which explains how Scotty Barnes was left at the fucking table against Boston. You blow that game, and now you come out and lay an egg in this game. But I mean, this team was playing for point differential. They came into the building wanting to blow you out, and they did.
And they did. Yeah. Anyway, listen, Rock, I gotta get going. Great coverage, and always good talking to you.
Thanks.
And going back to the empathy point, I mean, like, you making these lives after every game, you have my empathy, brother.
That's funny.
It's not easy. Yeah. Anyway, I'll let you go.
Cheers, man. See ya. Okay, let's see. Dun, 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 dun. Let's see here. We got private. SC. Sorry, man. J5. Ghostface. Okay. Ghostface, Freddy Fazbear. If you're real, I hope you're real. Hold on. I'm in a live chat and my name matches up. I'm not a troll. I just hate Siakam. No, Ghostface, I see you. Yeah, for sure. This other person, Freddy Fazbear, you feel very, very fake to me. Sorry. And it's funny how much people misread me. You think telling me that you hate Siakam is going to get you on a live? Like, are you ridiculous? What are you talking about, man? Ghostface, what's up, man?
Oh man, I don't envy you right now. These trolls in your chat.
It's all good, man. Like, it comes with the territory. I'm trying to say something that's not popular for people, and that's cool.
No,
cool.
for sure. And I agree with what the last caller said. I have a lot of empathy for you. I don't know how you do it. Speaking of which, speaking of empathy, I feel bad for Jalen Suggs. He should have been on this team instead of Scotty. I'm playing. But
Oh, okay. You got empathy for me. You're gonna start with that, huh? Okay. Jeez.
I wanted to discuss a point I saw on your Twitter.
Sure.
Somebody said Darko is enabling Dennis to hijack this offense. Now, I don't know how I completely feel about that statement, but I don't like the part he's playing if he's like, God help you if you're in Scotty Barnes' way, and then he's starting all these plays with Dennis and just letting Dennis do whatever. Like, at what point does it, I don't know, man. At what point does the change get brought in?
Well, luckily, Dennis didn't win a championship with us, and he's not an all-star, and he's never been anywhere near All-NBA, so it shouldn't be too hard for Raptor fans to kind of see that he shouldn't be a priority in this offense. And luckily for us, because he's so Dennis, he's come in with this very transparent script of like, yeah, I know Darko, I know the coaching staff, I know Darko from back in the day. I'm here because of Darko. And then so like when we see you doing such ridiculous shit, the first person we're going to look at is the fucking coach who's allowing you to do it. So maybe if you wanted to do this, you maybe act like you hate Darko and he hates you, and you guys are trying to reconcile some long-standing difference between you, and maybe don't give us such a clear preview into your pre-existing relationship, because that can be actually quite disruptive for team chemistry, especially when you yourself are not doing a very good job at setting guys up, and you yourself are not doing a good job with some of the things that you're supposed to be doing on the basketball court. and you yourself are, leading the team in shot attempts again and again and again. I mean, what team in the world has ever been successful with Dennis Schroeder leading the offense? I'll wait. Any? None? Zero. Exactly. How many teams have been
In
successful with
Germany?
Scott? Nobody.
Yeah.
No, not in the NBA, man. So like I appreciate, Darko, having a lot of faith in Malachi and Dennis and all this shit, man, but he needs to rein these dudes in. I mean, Malachi not so much. I don't think Malachi plays outside of himself, but Dennis especially. I don't care how many shots he makes, man. And it's the problem is, like, quite frankly, that he's getting the wrong message. He's getting the message to be more assertive, and he actually needs to get the message to get off the ball. But he's not getting that message, not from his coaching staff, not from his conscience, not from God, apparently, But God should talk to him and tell him to, move off the ball and move to his strengths, because he's not creating advantages. And teams are really playing the Raptors offense to know that, like, hey, man, like if this guy's initiating pick and roll, it's much easier to stop because he can't really finish in the paint very well. And they're living with his
Yeah.
shots. And it's kind of weird. Like, the Raptors have. So after tonight, Dennis and Scotty both lead the team in 70 attempts, right? And I think Scotty is still fractionally the better shooter between the two, even after Dennis went 4 for 4. But it's close now. You have two guys who mostly considers non-shooters, and they're your two best shooters and your highest volume shooters on the season. What happens when teams start playing these guys off the line because they catch up to the fact that they're having, shooting luck or better shooting seasons than, the shooting percentage will go down as well, I don't know. There's a lot to think about with this. Maybe that'll be a
It's
good
not a
thing.
good sign.
Being
it's not a
guarded
good sign at all.
at
Yeah.
the 3-point line would be a really good thing, because being played off is actually hurting everybody else. So, yeah.
For Scotty, yeah, but like Dennis still doesn't find advantages even when he's played up on the rare chance he is. But still, most of the time they're just daring him to shoot. And if he makes it, it's like his confidence. It's like the Cade Cunningham argument. Like, he might look good, but it's because he's getting all the rhythm, and
Yeah.
it's not a good thing. Like, I'd rather have Cade right now. I don't know.
You'd rather have what?
Cade,
Than Dennis?
yeah.
Well, no shit, because he's younger. And he has more value.
But overall, like play style, like I think Cade is more willing to move off the ball than Dennis is.
That's hard to believe, but sure.
I don't think it's an ego thing with Cade. I think it's more of the Pistons are telling him, take all these shots, because they want to push him to be the number one option. But I think if you told Cade, like, hey, you're the number two, Scotty's one, I don't think you have a problem with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's the impression I get from him, from listening to him like speak off the court.
Yeah. I don't know, man. I this team is frustrating, but like,
Yeah.
it's so high and low with this team. Like, either they're blowing someone out or they're getting blown out. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
like they're in a game and then they completely choke away the lead and they blow it at the buzzer. Like, it's like every loss is like, it's like, yeah, it's a loss, but it feels worse than most losses usually feel because it's so self-inflicted in some weird way, right?
And there's nothing to look forward to. Like, if you're a young team and you have a loss, right? It's like at least you saw some type of developmental shred. But it's like here we're barely seeing anything.
Yeah. I think people would be a lot more comfortable losing if they were seeing, Christian Coloco, Grady Dick, Scotty Barnes, like just going out there and being featured in roles that maybe they're not completely grown into yet, but you just live with the growing pains. Kind of like how the Magic, had to do it, living through Jalen Suggs continuing to start, even though it was obvious that players behind him were better. Living through Paolo's mistakes, Franz's mistakes. Franz was not great as a rookie. He was not bad, but he was not great. It's there's a lot of growing pains that come with, development in the NBA. And I think people really need to realize that. Like, these guys are 21, 22 years old. How good were any of us at our jobs when we were 21 and 22 years old? I don't think most of us
Right.
most of us were in university. So we were not in our jobs. We're not in our professions. So it's the same thing, so yeah, I don't know. It's a weird dynamic because we're kind of crossed between two timelines, caught between two objectives. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good at all, actually. The offense looks terrible, and tonight the defense was terrible too. This is really just sad. Yeah.
no man's land. We're in two conflicting parties between rebuild and whatever the hell Siakam wants, and
Yeah.
it's just I don't know, man. Ever since we signed Dennis, I kind of knew the team would turn in this direction because I don't think he had any spot in this team. It's the timeline didn't fit, the play style didn't
I
fit.
thought he was a bench backup. I thought it was a break glass in case Scotty at point experiment completely fails. And when I heard that he was starting, I immediately started to be like, oh my God. Because he kind of came out and said, I'm going to be the starting point guard. And I thought that
I'm the
was weird.
leader. He said I'm the leader or some candidate.
Yeah, he said, I'm here to lead. I'm here to lead. I'll be back. Will he be back? I don't know. I mean, okay, so ESPN needs IKD saying, Rob, if you were to wake up as Messiah and Bobby, what's the first thing you're doing to fix this team? Like the absolute first thing. Well, if I woke up as two people, I'd be quite disturbed. But okay, let's assume I know what you're talking about. Man, can't trade Dennis right now. That would be my first move. So fast.
What's January?
Yeah, I think it's December or January. I can't remember, but yeah. My first move would be to move Dennis to the bench. I would move Gary to the starting lineup. Clearly, he thrives there. Dennis has more comfort coming off the bench. You change a pace guard. Second unit needs a burst. Let him lead the second unit. He has a problem with it. Tell him to go fuck himself. That would be my literal approach to that. And I'm sick and tired of this guy's entire. It's presented in a very team first way, but it's dramatically egotistical. Like he is extremely ego driven, and I appreciate a healthy dose of confidence and swagger in players, but delusional self confidence at the expense of team development from a 29-year-old kind of betting on himself just pisses me off. It's the same thing with Fred. Okay, that's the first move. Second move, I trade Siakam for a package around Barnes and Herter and a pick. I would do that. And then eventually, I would probably trade Thaddeus Young, Chris Boucher, for something that makes a little bit more sense at the center spot. If Christian Koloko is truly out, or at the power forward spot, or maybe I package Gary plus those guys, and maybe even a pick to get a dramatic upgrade as a secondary creator at the shooting guard. That's what I would do.
What about Precious? You keep Precious?
I would flip a coin, man. Honestly, I have good days and bad days with Precious. It's like some days you really do see the potential and it's coming together, and it's tantalizing, and you just assume that he doesn't have the trade value to get you back anything that would be remotely better than what he is. Like it's not like he can get you a package around multiple first round picks or something. No. Yeah, and then I would basically force Scotty into point guard duties, and I would basically make it so that he had nobody else on his team that could even remotely do it. I would ban anyone else from bringing the ball up the court. I would just make it a rule. If he hands it to you in the backcourt, throw it back at his face. It's going to be forced development by tough love.
What do you think that is? You think he's just become used to playing a little bit more passive now? Because he certainly he can be aggressive when need be.
Sometimes young players who play on AAU clubs where they're alone and they're so dramatically better than their teammates, they become very ball dominant. They become used to dominating possessions, dominating dribbles, etc. But Scotty was kind of the opposite thing. He always had a teammate that was really good. And then eventually when he went to college, there was this very egalitarian style at Florida State. There was no one guy standing out. He was clearly the best player on his team, but he was coming off the bench for certain parts of it too. De facto, the best player on his team for sure. Nobody doubted Scotty Barnes was the best player at Florida State, but he agreed to come off the bench. You know what I mean? Wow, way to undercut your own star there, buddy. I don't know. So look, he's getting comfortable with it. He's certainly way closer to, being the guy than he was 4 years ago, 3 years ago, 2 years ago. It's all trending in the right direction. It's always been trending in the right direction. I get impatient because I'm like, why not now? Why not now? But I say this as a 35-year-old about a 22-year-old. I always have to realize this. When I was a tutor, one of the things that I learned was that 8-year-olds and 25-year-olds have very different brains.
Yeah.
There were things that were very obvious to me that were not obvious to the kids, so I had to allow them to figure it out for themselves, you know. And the more I allowed that to happen, the more I allowed them to figure things out for themselves, the more I allowed them to fail on their terms, but fail forward, the better they got. And a lot of those kids still write me emails and saying like, now I'm getting my master's, now I just got my job. It's really cool. I haven't tutored in like 8 years now, but I still get emails from these kids saying, thanks so much for tutoring me in math, like for those 2 years. It really helped me out. It's great. But my point is, like, those kids, as obvious as it was to me, like what their issue was in terms of why they were not achieving the results they wanted, it wasn't obvious to them. And until it became obvious to them on their terms, it was never going to change. So
Right.
allowing Scotty to just kind of go through different versions of the same teammates over and over and allowing them to sort of dominate possessions as he holds his head, like wondering what the fuck, at some point he will put it together that, okay, it has to be this, you know. And it probably helps that I'm flooding the internet with Scotty Barnes content saying he's the next KD. So maybe that'll help too. Like maybe you'll see a little bit of that and be like, huh, okay, that's what I am. Okay.
You think a lot of this is getting to him? Because I've seen so some of your lingo that you use on this channel ends up in other places of basketball content that I didn't expect to see. So it's like
Like
you
what?
do have a platform. So there was one I forget what it was, a Pistons game on the NBA highlights comment section, and
Mhm.
then they were talking about Cade as hijacking and tanking the offense in the comments. But I've like in all my years of NBA YouTube, I've never seen like people use those terms to describe a player. And the first time I really seen it is when you were using it on VanVleet. So it's like you have influence, and I don't think you realize as much, and it's kind of cool to
Oh,
see.
I do.
Yeah,
It sounds a little bit arrogant to say that, but I do.
no, not at all.
I've heard off the cuff stories about NBA players saying things about things that I've said and saying, "Oh, like I won't sleep tonight" or whatever because I called them out or some shit like that. I get it. I mean, I see who sees the stories basically, right? Like every day on
Right.
Instagram. Instagram shows you who's looking at your stories, who's looking at your content, who's responding to you. I see all of it. I realize that I have a platform. I realize it's not a very liked platform by a lot of people. I realize that I go about things in a very rude way. There was a comment earlier saying like, oh, they don't like you on Real GM because you're not very professional. Where in my fucking channel description says I'm going to be professional? I don't want to be professional, man. I'm trying to have fun here. I'm trying to be honest, but I'm not trying to maintain some sort of professional standard. I was having a conversation with my friend yesterday, and we were talking about, why are guys in the media the way where they are, right? And I thought it was a very cart and horse argument. They are where they are because they can be motivated by carrots, right?
Right.
And think about it. They all have this, they have a dog in the race. The dog in the race is climbing the ladder of, I want to be where Shams is one day, or I want to be where, I don't know, Keith Smith or one of these guys, Ramona Shelburne. Like I want to be, the Wojnarowski. Like they want to be that. They want to be, nationally accredited. They want to run their own platform. They want to run their own media company. And they think the only way they can do it is corporate climb. It is the schmoozing way of doing things. I mean, I've seen this in film as well. Film festivals are like this too. You program for this festival, you deal with the bullshit, you keep your nose down, you don't make any waves. There's no controversy that comes out about you. You don't have a sexual assault scandal. Congratulations. Now you move on to a bigger festival. And after 15 years, now you can be the festival director for Tribeca or Sundance or whatever, but only after they have seen for 15 years that you play ball.
Right.
I won't play ball for 2 seconds. Literally. I basically quit in the middle of my interview with these people. Like I'm just like, no, I'm not going to do that. Next person. I'm not motivated by a carrot. I cannot be motivated. I cannot be motivated by money. I cannot be bought off by money. If someone paid me $1,000 tomorrow and said, I'll pay you $1,000 to not criticize Pascal Siakam for a month, I'd be like, fucking shove that money up your ass. So it's not like, it makes people really uncomfortable because they don't know how to control you. You know what I mean? Like it becomes, it's scary. It's very scary. I have that feeling when I deal with people, like they act like, oh, we hate this guy, right? But when you genuinely meet these people, you get the feeling that they are really scared of you. not because you're so tall and so strong and so intimidating or so
That's
smart,
the voice.
but generally because they can't figure out what makes you tick.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to be polite, they're trying to say the right thing, and you're just like, your takes are garbage. Like they're just like, what do I say to this person to make them stop? and people have names for that. They have it unprofessional, uncivilized. I'm just being straight up. It is what it is. Like I don't really care for it, but I'm just saying, like, these people that are in these positions at Rogers, Sportsnet, etc. Please understand, I'm not trying to say they suck dick to get there, but I am saying they played ball to get there, because nobody in these positions is being put on air for a multi-billion-dollar corporation that may or may not go off the hinges and not play the party line of the PR reps or whatever, because everyone has a script, man. All these people have a script. They're all told, yeah, Pascal Siakam had a bad game, but we're not going to talk about. Okay. They're all told how to spin shit. They're all told, hey, man, when it's a 20-point blowout in the fourth quarter, we're going to feed you excuses and you're going to peddle them to the fans. Like, oh, mama said there'll be days like this, and they're on a back-to-back, and, there was a microwave used on the team bus that may have affected their mojo. Like, I mean, my God, like the excuses are endless, but they always do it. It's a brand. It's a business. I'm not fighting it. I get it. I fully get it. But at the same time, like, it is what it is. And I'm not gonna, I would love to talk to Jack Armstrong over a beer where there's no record and it's off the record. And I would love to know what he actually thinks of some of these people, because I cannot imagine someone who coached basketball can think the things that he says on air. Seems
Oh, yeah,
impossible.
he's been calling Siakam a good defender for multiple games now. And I'm like, what are you watching? I'm like, what are you talking about,
Because
man?
because he poked at the ball once. I mean, congratulations, but like, he was not.
Yeah, not at all.
And I mean, that's the thing. It's like, do you really see this? And if you do see this, and you do think this, then that might explain why you're not coaching anymore. That's fair. Because typically, when I listen to Stan Van Gundy or Jeff Van Gundy, typically, who both guys are not coaching right now, when I hear them talk about the game, I don't find myself disagreeing with like 99% of the shit that they're saying is exactly what I would say about that situation. Exactly. I don't find myself disagreeing. When I listen to Leo talk, like, I'm 78% to 80% with him. 20% of it is like, what the fuck? But when I listen to like Sam Mitchell or Jack Armstrong or Sherm, no offense, Sherm, really nice guy, but like when I listen to these people talk, Akil Augustine, these people, I'm like 50-50. I'm in or out. Like, most likely out. It's weird to me. So I don't know if they're scripted or if they're stupid or if they're just clueless. It's hard for me to say that someone who coached basketball for 20 years, has been around this for 20 years, could just not understand basketball. That's insane to me. That how can I possibly say this with a straight face? But there are levels to this, I guess. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, I think it's more of a rare chance for somebody to be around basketball and be so clueless about the game. I mean, look at Steven Silas, right? So I think it's possible, but it is on the very lower end.
Holy shit! What a reference!
I think more likely than not, they are being told what to say. Oh yeah, I hate to throw shots at Steven. He seems like a nice guy, but man,
He
that guy has
does.
no eye for the game.
I mean, it's true. It's so true. I mean, we can't all be Mike Malone, right? Like Mike Malone with his father, Brendan Malone, rest in peace, Brendan Malone. I never gave a shout out to Brendan Malone, but people really need to look back into that story of Mike and Brendan. Like, it's a really interesting one of father and son, and how they sort of supported each other on the journey and took turns being each other's assistants. It was really cool. But I mean, Mike gets basketball.
Yeah.
It's very possible for. Oh, that's so funny. I see Jack Armstrong is in the chat.
Where?
I'm not kidding. If I screenshot right now, it says Jack Armstrong, and it's a picture of Jack Armstrong, and I know it's a fucking troll, but like, I mean, I would love to just let him on, but I'm so afraid that I'm going to let somebody on and there's going to be like something that we all can't unsee. You know what I mean? It's risky. It's very risky.
I mean, over these past few days, you've had so many more trolls in your chat, I've noticed.
Yeah.
Where's the good trolls? Where's like Mark Anderson?
Yeah, Mark Anderson had called in before, but I wasn't. He did, but he didn't. He left before we could bring him on. I was afraid of. It's so funny. Mark is the funniest caller because he makes so much sense when he calls in, but he makes no sense when he's typing. Like typically when he's typing, it's like the craziest shit. Like send Pascal Siakam to Mars, send Scotty to Venus, like some shit like that. And then when he calls in, he's just like, Rob, I gotta talk to you, man. This offense isn't working, bro. Talk to me. And I'm just like, okay, where is this commentary when you're fucking typing? Like, why is what you're typing so different? Like, I don't
Hey,
get
he's
Mark
a
Anderson.
professional troll. No, he's a
Mark
professional troll.
Mark Anderson has given me like a lot of inspiration in a weird way, right? He's so genuinely strange in his ability to never respond to the critique. Like he can say the absolute most absurd shit in the history of the world, and it's so crazy, man. Like he'll come out and be like, "Yo, we should trade Scotty for like, I don't know what he'll say, like Patrick Beverley or some shit like that," and it'll be like, yeah, I know he doesn't think that, but like, holy shit. And then people will be like, are you fucking crazy? Blah, 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 blah. He's like, I'll tell y'all remember when I told you. It's just like, wow. He doesn't even spend time. He's awesome. He's great. He is the type of troll that I want. Like
I agree.
because it's so obvious when he's trolling. And you know, I'm at least 95% sure that he doesn't believe 90% of the shit that he's saying. So it's cool, you know, like it's what it is. But like these other people, like wow, it gets real weird.
No, it does. I've seen all. I guess I don't know. You think they're like coming over from maybe Samson Folk? Because I was looking at that whole debate you guys had, and there was a lot of people saying some shit to you. But speaking
Oh,
of
I
that
didn't see
debate,
it.
there was a lot of got deleted. There was some like
Not the result that you guys wanted. They had a lot of points in the paint. What did you see out there?
I mean, they play with a lot of energy. We couldn't match it, and I mean that's the reason why we lost. But it was again the first half, and yeah, we gotta be better.
How do you stop a team when they are on a run especially in the paint, attacking you guys? How do you defend that and also find your own momentum in offensively as well?
I mean, defend as a team. You know, it's not just one guy. It's 5 guys who have to protect the paint, and then from there, you know, shift out and contest threes. But like I said, they had the energy, brought the energy, and from the first minute of the game to end of the game.
I know that we talked about this before the game, but what was it like to kind of see your German national teammates again?
I mean, it's always great to see them, how they're playing right now. You know, Orlando has been playing great. They're a big part of it. And, I mean, we wrote history, you know, a few months back. It's always, you know, I'm always rooting for my German brothers, and I hope they, you know, keep it going.
And then just, you know, going into Indiana, you know, how do you take this loss and translate it to, to a win next game?
Yeah, I mean, if we play like this, like tonight, we lose by 40. So we got to find a way to bring the energy, defend as a team, and on the offensive end, you know, play together, move the ball.
All right, Coach, not the result you wanted, especially given the fact it's an in-season tournament game as well. Walk me through this one.
We started the game very sluggish. We knew that we were going to go against a team that does really good job in transition and running, which is that we started the game for whatever reason. We could not catch up with their pace. We were late to get back. We were late to be in our defensive positions to help each other, and they were just able to score in the paint a lot, which they do on elite level, but we were not able to prevent them doing that. I thought that early in the game we allowed them second chance points. They were offensive crashing as well, and I thought that the start of the game, first couple of minutes, okay. After that, we did not have good enough ball movement and finding open men. We were just trying to create everything on our own with a slow pace. We gotta pick up our pace and do much better job heading into Indiana tomorrow night.
The adjustments you made in the first quarter, and then I think like 2 minutes after the initial adjustment, was that just looking for energy or just a little extra effort? Matchups maybe an issue?
All of it, you know. When they go on the run like that, we were trying to get different matchups over there to try to go and switch more 1 through 5, just to give it a different look, because it looked like for every pick and roll they were just touching the paint way too easy, and we wanted to give our chance to our team to find ways in the game.
And to go a little bit smaller for some run there, was that just to find some speed with pace?
Correct. Same thing. It's trying to find solutions, because if something is not working, we cannot be stubborn. Like, we gotta reassess. Like, what can we do better there? And I thought that the guys coming off the bench tonight, they were trying to do their best. Just did not turn out to be our night tonight.
What's the messaging, especially with like the bigger guys, of making their presence felt in the paint specifically, because they got a lot of points there?
Everything starts on ball defense. So tonight on ball, I thought that we did not do good job. That's why they were touching the paint, and we gotta start our defense with really good staying in front of the ball, and then our shifts and our help and our teammates can help us. But everything starts really on the ball there. We gotta do a better job with staying in front of the ball and not opening up and just allowing those easier drives to the rim.
How much of a relationship does transition offense play into also the physicality that you could bring inside the paint and protecting it?
It's a big deal for sure. It's one of those things, like, in order to be physical, you gotta have bodies back, and we did not have start of the game good enough to allow us to have all the 5 players back, so we can actually put those bodies on them and then slow them down. It just looked the whole night that they were going wherever they wanted.
Somehow we make fun of Dennis's accent. Good point. I'm actually learning German right now, so I shouldn't be making fun of a German accent, but yeah. Fair enough. Okay. Thoughts? I don't know. What are your thoughts?
Personally, I love every time we do the German accent. That shit is hilarious. That's just me.
Yeah, I mean, please understand, I'm not making fun of Dennis Schroeder. I'm like I want to be the leader. There's no other way to say it. But yeah, the "I'll be back" was actually making fun of an Austrian accent, which is Arnold's. But yeah,
Arnold's Austrian?
yes.
Oh, damn. I thought he was like Swedish this whole time.
Word.
Yeah, that is.
Yes, he is Austrian. Someone correct me on that if I'm wrong. Wow, I'm gonna feel so silly if I'm wrong. But yeah, I think he is Austrian. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I have so many mixed thoughts about his role in this, and it's so hard, when you're a young coach, to know how much is his decision, how much is coming down from above, how much is being mandated. I mean, it made no sense to me. Like, the shift in usage towards Siakam after San Antonio, a game where he played the worst game of his season, right? Like, I'm not kidding. Like, how do you do this, right? Like look at
Jeremy Sohan made him look dumb.
Yeah, like, I mean, look at the. I don't know if you can see my. No, you can't. You probably can't see my cursor going across the screen, but like the usage against San Antonio and Philly was back to back, right? So in back to back games, he posted -5 and -13.3, and those are 2 of his worst games of the season. Those were 2 of the 3 worst games he played all season. And we see this shift towards more usage, and that just has continued and continued and continued. And then, of course, against Milwaukee, it kind of goes away for 1 game, and he posts this like incredibly negative game, and then it's back, and it's back. And I'm pretty sure tonight was pretty high. It was probably like 27, 28. So I don't know. Like, it's or actually, I wouldn't be surprised if it was like lower than that, and that would explain, why he was the way he was. So I don't know, man. It's hard to understand how this offense can go, because yeah.
It's funny because before the Dallas game, I was watching the Dallas broadcast, and they actually aired this TV spot. They called it Big Bad Barnes, and all of the commentators were talking about how this is like Scotty's team now after the whole San Antonio game. And I had this funny feeling in the back of my mind. I was like, wouldn't it be funny if Siakam just takes back over? And lo and behold, he did. But the only like 3 things I can think of for like the usage increasing is, 1, maybe that Dallas game boosted his confidence, and he's just like, I'm Siakam, give me the ball. 2, pushback from the fans that are like, oh, who's the Scotty Barnes guy? Or 3, just to inflate his stats so we can trade him. Those are the only like sensible 3 options I could think of.
I I think there was probably a feeling of if he's not going to buy in, then we're holding on to a declining asset that's tanking our value and his own value at the same time. Right.
So it's like salvage any win you can by playing his way.
Right. I mean, you've
Okay.
had to play his way. And we've seen a lot more individual isolation ball, etc. Right. Like I saw, it's so funny. Like the Detroit game, the first half was completely within team concept. But the minute the game was out of hand, we went right back to isolation basketball for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't care at that point. We were up by 30. I don't give a shit. Go pad your stats. I don't care. Like Siakam was having a really bad game up until that point. He'd had tough post possessions against Jaden Ivey and Alec Burke, and I guess occasionally he was struggling with not Jonathan Kuminga, James Wiseman, and guys like that. So yeah, I mean, you don't want necessarily a guy who you still are fielding trade offers for to leave like 140 point game where he scored 7. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So naturally, you don't mind that he boosts his numbers up to 23 or whatever. But then what I do mind is that his super fans come in after and say he was the best player. Like he wasn't even close. Not even close. He was third, fourth, fifth best player. So that's tough. So yeah, I don't know.
The crazy thing to me is I'm not from Toronto, so I don't even know he had this amount of like diehard fans. Or maybe it's just
I
like
don't
one
think he
person on 30
does.
accounts. Oh no.
Bro, honestly, I think what it is like it's like I think it's like 1,000 people, and they're just really, really, really loud.
Passionate. Yeah.
Like they're really loud. Like, can you imagine 1,000 of me?
Yeah, all for Scotty.
Oh yeah. Like, I mean, you would think the whole world supported Scotty Barnes, right? You think he's the greatest player. You think he's fucking next Michael Jordan if there was 1,000 of me, right? There's 1,000 of these people, and 20 to 30 of them are so loud, so vocal, and they built up so much momentum and so much following during the championship run that you just dealing with the fallout of that. These guys have accounts with 10,000, 15,000 followers and shit. So I don't know. I mean, again, I look at it from the perspective of content creation. I alluded to this in a previous live where, from my perspective, if I'm looking at my bottom line, this team being competitive is absolutely my best interest, right? This team, trading Scotty for Kevin Durant or trading Scotty for Dame. Like, I mean, imagine the amount of casuals that would immediately come into this fan base if we had traded for Damian Lillard.
Was that Dame out for real?
Yes.
Because
Not
I
for
listened
Scotty
to this,
though.
for Scotty. I listened to this one whatchamacallit, Heat fan, and I don't know if it was just because he's a Heat fan and they're really delusional, but he said it was a false report just to like get the Heat to try and up their offer. Like, oh look, you're losing the bidding race, so Raptors are about to get him.
Well, he had expressed that he didn't want to go to the Raptors, and I don't think he'll need to express that explicitly, or his agents wouldn't feel a need to express that explicitly unless there was some interest. And I would personally be very shocked if the Raptors had not at least poked around to inquire about, a really good player becoming available when you have a player like Pascal Siakam that you can potentially trade back. I would have drawn the line at OG or Scotty, largely because losing either one of those guys makes Dame coming here kind of useless. Not because I think OG's a better player than Dame. Obviously, I don't. And I don't think he ever will be. I don't think he's going to be close. But I do think, if you're holding Scotty out, then the only realistic offer was for OG. But if they pitch Siakam plus stuff, that would have been interesting for me. But people really wanted Scotty to be the one going out, right? They wanted Scotty, OG, Gary, whatever. And let's just build this thing around Dame and Pascal and watch this thing. And I think what they really are being is short-sighted. Like, they just want something good for the next 2 to 3 years because they're thinking about, well, this is going to make my life better for the next 2-3 years. Watching Dame time and Siakam as they gracefully age into their 30s and get wiped in the second round every single year, as there's no defense around them. There's no hope. There's no youth. There's no Oh, let's trade Grady. Let's trade future picks. Let's trade everything for Dame, or let's do it for Kevin Durant. And it's just like, bro, like, are you watching Kevin Durant? Like right now, is he going to win a championship with Phoenix? So he has Devin Booker right now. Devin Booker's a hell of a lot better than Pascal Siakam. He's still not going to win it. He's not going to win shit. So that's kind of the point. It's like these guys, they want to make these trades because look at the amount of casuals that would come in. Like, can you imagine like how lit this live would be right now if we made a trade for Damian Lillard right now, even if it was for Scotty Barnes? Scotty Barnes for Damian Lillard today, right now. Like, this fan base would be flooded with international fans, Damian Lillard fans. It would double, triple revenue on these videos. Short-sightedly, it would work out in every content creator's benefit. Long term, it would fucking kill this team. So it's about having the long-term vision. I will never support a short-term decision for a team that I actually care about in order to boost my views. Stupid. So, but yeah, all of these people, I mean, like look at the Canadian media space. They're all struggling. They're all like, Raptors Republic, not to keep beating the drum on them, but like they've included paywall so that they can pay their people. Previously, they're paying people like $5 an article and some shit. So doing revenue splits and shit. So like or $25 an article. I can't remember what the offer was, but it was very little. And it's like, to be competitive in this field, I mean, you require audience, you require people to pay for this shit, so it's a business. I get it from all sides. It's a business. From the Raptor side, it's a business. From MLSC side, it's a business. From content creator side, it's a business. From the player side, it's a fucking business. Fred was a business. Pascal is a business. And I looked at Fred VanVleet's Twitter account the other day. Bet on yourself top. 2 dice.
That's his thing in his bio?
Entrepreneur.
Oh, yeah.
It says entrepreneur. It does not say basketball player. It says entrepreneur. That's what he sees himself as. And we knew that about him.
Props to him for that, but it sucks for our team, right?
You know what? Like, I mean, if Fred VanVleet was my son, apart from the abhorrent treatment of his younger teammates, I mean, I'd be like, yo, man, cool. Set up your family for next 25 generations. Why would I be salty about that?
He made it out of Rockford. It is what it is. This came at our expense of one of our years. That was crucial.
Well, see, here's the thing. This is going to be a really random example, but I remember I used to work security for concierge, I used to work at malls or whatever. So one of the things with security is you have shifts and you relieve each other. I don't know if you've ever worked security. Have you?
No.
Do you know anyone who's worked security?
I do, but I haven't talked to them about it.
Cool. So basically, the way our security shifts work is we were working on 12-hour shifts or 8-hour shifts. 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours. So there's one guy, and it was constant. So rotating, what would happen was the person who would work the 8 hours would do all their patrols. They would do all of their sheets. They would create notes for the next person. Then the next person is supposed to show up 15 minutes early so that you have the time as you're wrapping up to brief them on anything that may have happened, anything they need to know, any person who might be coming into the building, etc. And then you leave, right? The whole process is disrupted when someone doesn't take proper notes and the other person gets fucked over. Or when one person never shows up for their shift on time and then the other person gets fucked over. So I always try to make it like my best effort initially was that I don't screw up the process. But then I ended up working behind a guy who would always screw up the process. He was always late. And God help me if I was coming in after him, his notes were sloppy. They were incomplete. They were missing shifts. There was like a last round of patrols that he didn't do because he didn't get around to it because he was fucking like an idiot who was like eating in the break room or some shit like that. And I always remember thinking how much harder my day became because this guy existed. So I often look at companies like that. If you are an entrepreneur that doesn't balance their books properly, doesn't manage, your social media accounts properly, doesn't, keep on track of things, then any person who comes in after you to take your job is going to have 10 times harder job. And for the first few months, they're really, really, really going to struggle to clean up your mess. And everyone is going to say they suck more than you did.
Right.
So I think of Darko a little bit like that. He's having to clean up an entire selfish culture, and it's not going to wipe away overnight. And he made that clear, abundantly clear in the beginning. He's having to deal with players who have been wired to go into anytime we're down, I got to do it myself. This has been wired into this team for years. They've watched Siakam do it. Prior to Siakam, they watched DeMar do it. Like they have just, this has been the brand. This has been the brand of Raptors basketball for so long that one guy does it, four guys watch. Things get tough, we go isolation. Things got tough with Fred, boom, start betting on yourself. Then you have, this entire culture of a guy who can hijack an entire offense in order to prioritize his contract, and a management team that allowed him to get away with it, and 15, 16 guys who watched that happen. That doesn't just go away. You can't just wipe that away. I used to say, my grandfather used to say that when blood is shed on the land, it stays in the soil for 6 generations, which means that parents tell their children, children tell their children, children tell their children about the atrocities of war that happened at the hands of these people did this to our people. This tribe did this to our tribe. This country did this to our country. And this shit is so hard to weed out. And 5 generations later, this person grows up hating their neighbor. They don't even know why they hate their neighbors, because their father hated the father, grandfather, back. Once culture is tainted, it is very hard to then take the same people and reshape it. You must ship people out. I think you have to ship people out. I think and Masai Ujiri was pretty clear, there will be no selfishness. Okay. Make that point more clear by, clearing out anyone who continues to play in that way. And I think there are plenty of examples already of guys who played that way. So if you're going to make a hardline stance and you're going to, declare for the public that there will be no selfishness, then prove it. Stand on your words,
Yeah, that was a great anecdote with the security guard and then the generational trauma metaphor. So how long would you
It's pretty
say
abstract, eh?
Yeah.
Whoa, we went from war, generational trauma, to some guy who fails to fill out his shit. But I mean, it's true. And actually, you know what's funny? A good way to look at your own life is this way too. You imagine that you are think of yourself as a night guy, morning guy. So if you stay up tonight, you go drinking, you do the wrong things, you don't prep your shit for the next day, you're fucking yourself over the next morning. So actually this metaphor is actually used also to yourself. So if you make good, healthy decisions today, you're helping yourself tomorrow. If you stop smoking today, like I stopped smoking today, you're helping yourself 10 years from now when you can actually run with your kids instead of, wheezing and running out of breath. So it's just about, paying it forward and helping yourself out somewhere in the future, but also helping out the next person who's going to do your job. And, for us, like you and I, the next person who's going to do our jobs is us. So 10 years from now, what decision can you make today to make your life easier 10 years from now? I don't know, maybe save some money, read a good book, pay thanks for 3 things, eat healthier, cleaner, stop doing stupid shit. I don't know, find better friends, find better ideas. All of these things are just making your life easier. But then when we are actually at a job where we're transactionally working for money and shit, then I think that we have an obligation. And I find so many people, in my honest opinion, when they find out that they're leaving, they check out, right? When they find out they're fired or whatever, and the boss gives them 2 weeks notice or whatever, they give their 2 week notice, they're checked out mentally.
Yeah.
I like the people who remain professional to the last second. Those people really show me who they are. And there are people like this for sure. They know they're leaving, but they keep doing their job till the end. My mom was like this, actually. She was like that. She was professional to the 99th, she never cheated 1 second. And yeah, I respect people like that. So Fred, Nick, I can never ever rate what they did because of how they left. It's not Chris Bosh. I cannot support how he left. Took the fucking 9 games off with some face thing because he didn't want to get injured, because he had a big contract coming up with Miami. He didn't want to screw it up. Then he talks shit about the city. Fuck him. That is real. I can't stand that. I got what I wanted from you. Now I'm done. Now, whatever. I can't. That to me is even general managers. They know they're on the hot seat. They know that, they've done a bad job so far. So what do? Last ditch effort, they trade 3 picks. It's like, who are you fucking over down the line? I know that you're not going to have to clean this fucking job up. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
It's just bad human character, and it's more rare to meet people who will do their job to the end, right? It's
Yeah.
just the world we live in. But that was a great point about Coach Nurse. That what's crazy now is I'm actually like now I stay a short drive out of Philly, so I most of my friends are meathead Sixers fans, and they're like, "Yo, what are you talking about? Nurse is a great coach, right? He transformed our offense." And I'm like, "You can say he's a great coach, and I agree. He helped us win a chip, but I can't forgive him for what he did. He messed our culture up. He didn't fix anything. He ruined a year of development that was crucial. So you could tell me he's a great coach. I still won't agree to it because of how he ended things with us, and that's really important. How you end things with somebody."
Yeah. Absolutely. And to me, it's like, how do you initiate positive change? It's very easy to walk
Yeah.
into a company, and say, I'm going to give you all $1 million at the end of the year if you clean this shit up. But what are you really creating? You're creating an entire company that is motivated by
Competition.
money, competition, etc. Right? Like, there's so many different ways to motivate someone into action, right? Like, you can go and tell Fred, yo, I want you to work real hard. I want you to be an all-star next year, right? I mean, there's a positive way to do this and a negative way to do this. There's an individualistic way to do this. There's a team first way to do this. I believe that individual success cannot be written out of sports. There's always going to be records, fans, contracts, etc. There's always some level of individuality. You can be individually great within the team. Scotty can win, rookie of the year within the team concept. It doesn't have to go out and hunt it. It doesn't have to become the goal. Aiming in 2 places at once never works. There's a great line, and I'm forgetting which movie it's from, but it's really good. So it's like a CEO or a president or something like that. So he says, and I hope I don't butcher this, I'm going to try my best. So he says, when I took this job, my predecessor handed me a letter and some piece of advice. Someone mentioned in the chat if you know which movie this is, because I'm completely drawing a blank right now. So my predecessor that I was taking the job over from, like president or whatever, he gave me a letter. And he says, I'm going to tell you what my predecessor told me. The first time you make a mistake and you can't get out of it, open this letter. So a month into his job, he makes a mistake that he can't get out of, and he opens the letter. And in it, it says, blame everything on me. Said, I fucked it up. You're cleaning up my mess, etc. And then he says, the next time you make a mistake, open the second letter. Well, a couple months later, he makes another mistake, and he opens a second letter. The second letter reads, get out your pen and write a letter.
Oh, I think I know where this is going.
Yeah. So that's exactly what he does. And that's exactly how this whole thing works, right? Everyone passes the buck down. It's not my fault. It's this guy's fault. It's this guy's fault. It's this guy's fault. And it's very difficult in an organization that includes hundreds of people and so many external factors, so many agents, trainers. Where is this toxic energy coming from? Where is it coming from? Is it coming from a leak? Is it coming from this or that? Is it coming from a particular trainer or a particular coach or an assistant coach or whatever? It's so hard. So many people were trying to do the witch hunt thing last year. Is it Rico Hines? Oh, wow. Rico Hines was in Sacramento. They were super selfish. He left. Now we're super selfish. Now he's, like, you know what I mean? Like it's a witch hunt. It becomes a witch hunt. It's like, oh, it's Nick Nurse. It's very difficult right now. Like for instance, like for anyone to isolate Nick or Fred, right? Because they are not technically in organizations where they've been around long enough to influence change. Nick has walked into Doc Rivers' system. He is tweaking things because he is a smarter basketball mind than Doc Rivers. I hope people realize that is like me saying that a chicken is smarter than an ant, Like, it's not saying much. Okay. Doc Rivers is one of the most overrated coaches in NBA history. He's so bad. I've never seen a coach blow more 3-1 leads. I've never seen a coach more consistently throw his ex-players under the bus. He is not a person that I would ever want to play for if I was a player. I don't think he'll ever coach again. I'm positive about that. That's why he's going on all these fucking rambly rants about James Harden being so shit and Ben Simmons being so shit and whatever. It's like, bro, how about you go on a rant about you being so shit? Nick Nurse has walked into that, and he has improved technical things that, Doc Rivers had not. He is unlocking an MVP into a better version of himself, which isn't hard because Joel Embiid played a completely trash brand of basketball last year and still won MVP somehow. So I just don't rate him that way. Yeah. Yeah, of course we know why. So,
Right.
I mean, I don't rate him, and I don't rate Fred. Fred is not the reason. I mean, my God, like Steven Silas, as much as we talk shit about him, man, like he poured years of development, 2 years of development into Alper and Şengün. Şengün worked hard too. He grew 2 inches. Ime Udoka is a hell of a coach. That was the reason I wanted him, in spite of his scandal, which, I mean, again, he cheated on his wife. He didn't beat a woman. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
I'm not supporting infidelity, but I don't rate it on the same level.
Yeah, I appreciate that rant you went on earlier about Miles Bridges and domestic abuse. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, like, you know how, like, see, it's one thing as a man to say this. It's another thing when I'm watching this game winner and I'm seeing all the women commenting like, this is embarrassing, this is embarrassing, this is embarrassing. Because, I mean, a lot of these women are victims of, maybe they are victims of domestic abuse. And they are seeing someone who reminds them exactly of the person who did this to them being celebrated on fucking national television. And it feels a little bit strange.
Sends the wrong message.
It is sending the wrong message. It's sending the wrong message to every single fucking athlete that you can just do this and walk onto the court and everyone's going to be like, bygones be bygones. We forgot about it all. And as much as I would believe and preach in a society that is more leaning towards empathy and understanding and rehabilitation and psychology and therapy, I do believe that we need to like make clear where we stand on certain behavior, right? As I said before, like I can totally understand why someone may go into, victimizing children. I totally understand that. They were victimized themselves. They're mentally stunted. A lot of these things. I can understand it intellectually, but I cannot accept it morally. There has to be a dividing line between morality and intellectuality, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I think
you can have empathy for understanding the roots of how somebody got to some place, but it doesn't help if you're not working towards abolishing the, cutting the head off the snake or whatever metaphor you want to use.
This is a line that we struggle with as a society a lot. We struggle with this line because ultimately we believe that condemnation is the only way that we can clear our own hands of any vagueness, right? Do you condemn? Do you condemn? You've ever seen these political debates on CNN? Do you condemn? And it's just like, bro, like, whoa, there's some nuance here. Like there was some tit and tat shit before, but you can't say that. Can you imagine saying there was some sort of tit and tat shit about this particular scandal and people would be like, see, apologist. Like we're such in a rush to say this guy's the Scotty dick rider or this guy's a Scotty hater. Like we can't just say it is so fucking black and white because people need labels because labels make you easy to group with other people, right? Nobody wants to see the super Scotty fan who's criticizing Scotty. Nobody wants to see the super Siakam fan who's being critical of Siakam. What do they call that person? Shaky. Yeah. They call him shaky. They call him flip-flopping. So it's like, unless you go and beat the same fucking drum every single day, people can call you weak. If you beat the same drum every single day, people can call you a hater. It's like, you can't win with these people. These people, they're like low lives. Like, I think like one of the greatest the greatest weirdness of the 21st century is that those people that used to ramble to themselves in the back of the bar and everyone used to pretend they didn't exist. And then you wait for them to get a little bit drunk. And then you just eventually tell them to, hey, Chuck, go home. That guy now has an international audience. That is the weirdest step forward for society in the history of the world. I don't know.
Who is that guy? I didn't catch the metaphor.
Like there was this guy in 1998 who just rambled in the back of the bar. Let's call him Mark Anderson.
Speaking of Mark, did you see what he said earlier? He said, "Are you the security guard that caught me when I was riding my bike in the mall?" That shit had me dying.
That would be hilarious. No, I did not. But that guy, he just talked to himself. I mean, everyone knew to avoid him.
Right.
Everyone knew not to take him seriously. He didn't have any way to get his idea across to more than 20 people at a time because people would just kind of clutter away from him or sputter away from him when he would walk in public. But now that person has a Twitter account and he knows. Like there was a particular do you remember the last game when Siakam goes and to the hoop? And I'm sure if you're on Twitter, you've seen it. And Scotty does the rock a baby, and then he counts, the babies, right? How many
Oh, I
babies
know what you're
did
talking about.
Siakam rock, right? And this person says, will he ever beat the allegations, right? The allegations being that he is whatever. And what drove me mental was how many people shared that to condemn it.
Yeah, you're drawing more attention to it.
The more you share it, the more it gets. And for every 20 people that you're going to convince that this is stupid, you're going to find 5 more people that are just going to remember that label. And then the next thing you know, this is how social media even works. So it's like, if you hate something, the last thing you should do is talk about it. I mean, the people who hate me and share my shit, like y'all are idiots, like completely to the nines, like because you're sharing my work and saying, look at what this idiot said. And you think that you're sharing it in an echo chamber, and you probably are. But for every 100 people that you're going to get to hate me, you're going to get 10 people to come to this channel and be like, this guy makes some sense. You're helping me grow my audience. Why would you do this?
Yeah.
I don't do this for other people. I mean, I feel like talking about Samson in light of, everything that's happened would be in poor taste. So I won't. But in general, when I, talk about Will Lou or, Blake Murphy, or not really Blake Murphy anymore, but like Will Lou or people like this, I'm positive that people who begin to hate me will subconsciously begin to gravitate towards those guys because they'll associate. Oh, I don't like him. Let me go and hang in the channel. Like I've seen it a lot. There are community members that have left this channel and then have gone directly to the quote unquote competition, as in like they've gone to Chev or they've gone to Will Lou, and I'll see their comments everywhere. And I'm just like, huh, that's interesting. So I basically just created an audience for this person. The
It's just
enemy
the
of my
nature of
enemy
things.
is my friend,
Yeah. No, it's the
Weird.
nature of things because I'm not from Toronto, so I don't even know who Willu was until you shared him.
There you
I
go.
literally
I
did not know who he
I
was.
fucked up. I gave this guy some clout. I gave his ideas breath. I started confronting them on these lives like a complete moron by saying like, can't believe Michael Grange said this. And it's like, bro, Michael Grange said it on a video that has 600 views. You're going to get 6,000 views on the video that you're talking about what Michael Grange said. Look at what a megaphone you just became from Michael Grange, right? So I need to remember this because I do get triggered and I do get angry and about this shit. And then I need to remember like, bro, like you have a bigger platform than some of these people on some level. And the more you talk about them, like you're just amplifying their platform. And every time somebody gets mad at you, they're just going to go over and join their fucking platform. So it is, this is some real meta shit that we're talking about here. Like on some level, like we're trying to like really, really figure out how the world works.
But in that context, maybe it's an acceptable sacrifice, right? Because since you have a bigger platform than him, more people will condemn him than you will, like, they will follow him.
But the condemnation is useless because even the condemnation helps the algorithm. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Like people, like, if you really want to get a Twitter following, get a blue check mark, create an account that looks kind of legit, like instead of Legion Hoops, Leggin Hoops, like that fake account. People are so stupid, they won't notice. And then say the craziest shit. Post 10 of the craziest tweets. Your account will blow up. You'll have like 1,000 subscribers or 1,000 followers within a week.
Easy bread.
Difficult. It's not difficult. Exactly. If it's monetary gain that you're after, then it comes through engagement. If it's engagement you're after, make people feel something. Believe me, anger is one of the most powerful feelings that you can evoke in a person, right? And at that point, like people are just like, okay, I can't believe this. But what are they really doing? They're just saying, I am what this is not. I am what this is. So when people share your shit, it's like, I am this too. I'm part of this. And then people like say, I can't believe this person said this. They're saying, I'm not part of this. So it's constant. It's a constant identity crisis for these people. They're just trying to cement and solidified their identity for other people. So if, for instance, I don't want to give more attention to Miles Bridges, perhaps that's why I said Bridges instead of Miles Bridges. I don't know why. Like I should have just said player number whatever for Charlotte. What I shouldn't be talking about it right now, right? I shouldn't, but I certainly shouldn't be tweeting about it. I certainly shouldn't be sharing pictures of his game winner saying, I can't believe this is happening. This is ridiculous, because you're just creating more attention for a game winner. You know what I mean? You're creating more, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to condemn things without helping them in this age.
What you said was very true about the people feel this need on social media to cement their position. I'm against this or I'm not against this. And it's like you'd be better off keeping it to yourself. Much better off. But
yeah.
That's the thing with Miles Bridges too. Like going back on the history of the NBA, bit of a tangent. I think all that condemning athletes or NBA athletes for like horrible crime against women went out the window when D Rose was convicted. Do you remember that? Back when he first signed with the Knicks? Yeah. You know, I look back on it like a couple months ago. There's articles deleted. The NBA covered it up so well, and that's when I kind of knew like NBA athletes are not going to suffer from mistreating women. That's the vibe I got.
Was it proven?
Well,
with Derrick Rose?
The judge ruled him not guilty, but if you like read into the case, there's like a 99% like chance he is guilty, because he said, I don't want to say it on this live, but like you could read into it on your own.
Oh well.
Yeah, he's definitely guilty in my opinion. And it sucks because he was one of my favorite players.
Mine too. I mean, it's the same thing with Ja Morant. You know, I mean, that's not the same thing. Obviously, it's a completely different charge, but it's not a crime against women, but rather just a promotion of a culture that is not helping anybody.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, it's really difficult because, you know, Fred VanVleet might have actually identified the truth. These aren't basketball players. These are entrepreneurs. Right.
Right.
Basketball is just their preneur. Like Napster was Sean Parker's preneur, you know? So yeah, it's really strange. It is so individualized. And when the money gets so big and the scales tip so loud, you know, like Kelly Oubre averaged 20 points per game for Charlotte last year. And somehow, because the disaster class that has been his career to date, he managed to get a minimum contract with the Sixers. That was the best thing he can get. Minimum contract after averaging 20 points per game. That's crazy. You think about it. Given how the average person thinks about the game. Yeah. So I just and then the difference between being a guy who's 20 points per game but seen as a good 20 point per game scorer like a Scotty Barnes right now and a bad 20 point per game scorer like a Kelly Oubre, the difference is a supermax and $2 million. That's a big gap.
Right.
That is a big gap. So there is a lot of vested interest in agent favors and media coverage and all this stuff, and it becomes very politics. It becomes very politics. And anytime you introduce this much money into anything, it has this potential to get tainted. I remember there was this video that someone made. It's called "The Spirit of the Game" or "The Soul of the Game," and it was just all about like this new generation. This was in 2005. This new generation that came in. It's just all about the blitz and the money and the contracts and shit. And I thought it was misguidedly nostalgic, perhaps, because money's always been a part of the game, but it's never been this big a part of the game.
It's the endorsement deals and whatnot after the whole Air Jordan sneaker and the whole gateway that was introduced from that. And it's like, there's a brand. Like now basketball players are players, but their name is also a brand. It carries a lot of weight that can lead into so much things. And it's interesting because Damian Lillard, you know about the thing with his wife? She filed for divorce.
Mm-hmm.
She said he was a bad dad, but she didn't want to reveal it because his name is a brand and that could ruin his brand.
But then how do you know about it?
Yeah, she filed about it in court, and the court documents got released.
Oh shit.
Yeah, you can look into it. It was interesting.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Man, you're killing all my childhood heroes right now. D Rose, Dame Lillard. Damn. Fred VanVleet. No, I'm just kidding.
You know he was my childhood hero? Funny
Who?
enough. FVV.
Who?
Fred VanVleet.
No, really?
Yeah, it was because when I hopped on I became a Raptors fan, it was 2016 and I was really young and I just liked the way he hooped.
You liked the way he hooped?
Yeah, but I was very young at the time.
So
Very, very young.
15, 20% from the field didn't bother you back then, huh? All right.
I know because I didn't look at the stats. I just watched the game. I was a little ass kid.
How old are you now?
I just turned 18 not too long ago.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Like I've never picked up on that from you once. Like in all of
Really?
these chats, I always felt like you were easily in your mid-20s. That's interesting.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's cool, man. I mean, like you found Pensari basketball after growing up a Fred VanVleet fan. If that isn't that's a Disney story.
You know what the
We could
funniest
write a
thing is?
Disney story out of it.
The funniest thing is I found your channel after remember the Chicago games, the first batch of Chicago games last season.
Was it the low light film?
Yeah, because I seen the first Chicago game, Fred VanVleet was playing off the ball. I was like, this is great, right? And then the next game, he was doing Fred VanVleet. I was like, is anybody else seeing this? And I ended up finding your channel. I'm like, oh, thank God. And then I was just right there.
That's funny. This Rob, believe it or not, I get people recognized from your show on the street, feel like a celebrity. That's hilarious. Oh man. Okay, Ghostface. It was really good chatting with you, man. As
Yeah,
always, my pleasure. There are some other callers here, but I don't want to let them on, so I'm not going to. It's nothing personal. The consequences of someone coming on and doing something crazy. Like last year, I don't know if you were watching this channel last year, but there was this guy who came on, or I don't know if there was a guy or someone came on, and they were just dancing, and we let them
Yeah.
dance. It was funny, but like, man, what do you do if that person just decides?
Flash you, something wild.
Right? Like you get demonetized right away. And so you lose that money. Then you have a whole bunch of people who are offended. Then you have to scrub it. It's the consequences of doing lives. I mean, people don't realize it is quite terrifying also to do it that way, right? So might have
Anybody
to
that's
ask
too
you-
desperate to get on is usually a red flag.
Possibly, yes. Yeah. There is a person who is on who has not turned on their camera. We're not going to see them. Their name is Frank. I will definitely let them on as well to talk. But yeah, take care, man. Have a good night.
Peace. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
You
my
too.
pleasure, man. See ya. Okay, Frank. Please don't be a troll. Hello, Frank. How you doing? That was weird. Was that Salvatore? Did we catch Salvatore? Or did Frank just press the wrong button? I don't know. Mark Anderson. Yeah, sure. You can call in, man. Might as well. We have Frank back. Okay, Frank, what's up?
Hey, I talked to you once in Canada. I'm from Canada, living in Spain here. Not a troll.
Okay, good stuff. How are you doing?
Sorry, I'm good. I was just wondering quickly about if you watched the with they had Jama on. Sorry, the TSN, the panel there.
Sure.
And he was talking about wanting to pair Malachi Flynn with our other point guard. And
Dennis Schroeder.
with Dennis Schroeder. I was just wondering why. Like it's almost talking like if you didn't see Scotty as a point guard. I was just wondering what your message you got from that.
I didn't hear that. So I can't completely comment on it. But if what you're saying is accurate, that they want to pair these two up, I would say find a different game to do it. It's not the worst idea. It's also not the best idea. You're giving up a lot of size. You bled on the glass tonight. I don't think either one of these guys did a great job of keeping some of their bigger wings in front of them. And again, like if you're just like, there's so many consequences of being small in the basketball court. There's so many, from a rebounding perspective, from a help side perspective. You look at the Orlando Magic, their smallest player is Cole Anthony. He's 6'2", 6'3". Everyone else is 6'4", 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", 6'10", 6'11", 7 feet. Everybody, like across the roster. I was actually pretty much firm that they shouldn't even sign Cole Anthony because like I just wanted them to have this like first ever 6'7" and up team. And it's so funny. Everyone's been talking about the Raptors Vision 6'9", Vision 6'9", and actually Jeff Weltman went to Orlando and built it.
Yeah.
This is Vision 6'9" with one small guard. We have two, and we insist on playing them together. I think that's a mistake.
I just sorry. Would there be any way of getting like a coach on like here for you to connect with them? Like I was wondering why they don't play Otto Porter more and why they've shifted away from Scotty being point. Like I really like him playing more on ball, like getting the reps that Dennis Schroeder's getting, like some of the usage back to Scotty.
Yeah, I don't know. I think maybe they see him as more of a wing long term, and they want him to be. Maybe they want to push him out of situations that'll allow him to be more pass first, and they'll allow him, and it kind of forces him to be more of a scorer and to work on some off ball stuff. Like I would not be surprised if right now there's a mandate quarter by quarter for him to do different things so that he can develop. This year is fully about development. I know it is because of who they hired, who they brought in, the coaching staff. You don't bring in a coaching staff like this to win basketball games. You bring in a coaching staff like this to develop young players. So that being said, are people right to be critical of Darko's rotations and game plans? And yeah, absolutely. Totally right. But if he was the czar of development and the czar of defensive adjustments and the czar of offensive adjustments and the czar of eyeing talent and the czar of creative lineups, like he would have been a head coach already, right? Can't be great at everything. Ironically, what he said about Scotty Barnes also applies to him. You cannot be great at everything.
I was just thinking.
Go ahead.
No, I was just thinking what you said exactly, like that. 3 things, like you can't be great at everything, like that.
Yeah, and I mean, as a head coach, like I mean, he's here to change culture. He's here to help young players develop, and he's here to manage a competent game plan. Like to anyone who plays NBA 2K, right? There's always an offensive rating, a defensive rating, and a potential rating for all coaches, right? Darko's offensive and defensive rating might be C and D, whereas Nick might be like an A and a B, something like that, right? So you're going to feel the fall off. You're going to feel the fall off in terms of game preparation experience, and you should. Nick Nurse has been coaching longer. He's been alive longer. He was a head coach of this team longer. Not everyone is going to be Brad Stevens, where they come in like a wonderkind at in his mid 30s and can out coach people. Like it's not that way. But every coach is going to have weaknesses and strengths, and I think that the Raptors hired a coach that can disrupt some of the previous poor patterns that have existed in terms of culture and team building. I think he can foster an environment of learning and development for younger players. And inevitably, and I'm not trying to say this will definitely happen, but 3 years from now or 2 years from now, if they're in a title contention window and they give him a shot in the playoffs, and his rotations and his lineup adjustments and his game plan adjustments, more than likely what's going to happen is you're going to see him remain head coach, and you're going to see his staff change over the years. You're going to see former head coaches get millions of dollars to come in to be his defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator. Head coaches are massively misunderstood by casual fans. Casual fans think of head coaches like in high school. No, assistants take care of a lot of stuff. Okay. They take care of game planning. They take care of scouting reports. They take care of film sessions. They take care of practices. Assistant coaches in the NBA are so critical. So to see an assistant coaching staff that is this void of like former head coaches and like real NBA pedigree guys is rare if you're expecting to win.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, what about Otto Porter? Do you know why he's not playing? And I have to go soon, but I just wanted one more thing to ask is, do you think there's any way that you see the coaching be able to get Pascal Siakam to buy in and see him work long term? The only thing I see right now is him being traded, but do you think there's any way that he could fit in?
I think, in theory, he should fit in. He is he's capable athletically to play defense. He's capable as a rebounder. He's capable of being a secondary ball handler. He's played this role before with Kawhi and Kyle. I think at this point, it is just ultimately the matter of, is he willing to play this role, which is going to hurt his numbers in a season, in a career year, like in a contract year. Like, I don't think so. And this is a very difficult pill for them to ask him to swallow, and even more difficult for him to swallow. So I don't know if I have any optimistic outlook of like, oh, Pascal Siakam is just going to have a moment where he's going to be like, all right, I don't have to have the offense run through me. We can play more egalitarian. We can play more free flowing. We can play more motion. I'll participate. I'll cut with intention. I'll play off the ball. I'll shoot more, etc. It's not really like his game anymore. And he's also spent like 4 years. Please understand this. He's also like the argument about Scotty, like what is Scotty good at, right? And then what must he get better at? Well, the development pipeline for Scotty to get better at 3 things, that development pipeline already happened for Siakam. Siakam already got better at his 3 things. And those 3 things have nothing to do with off ball. It's midi post, pull up, driving to the basket. That's kind of like his whole game right now, right? He doesn't have anything else. He didn't develop his 3-point shooting well enough. It's not at a competent level. It's not league average or anywhere close to it. He didn't really figure out pick and roll ball handling per se. He's figured out transition passing and basic reads out of doubles, but he hasn't like become like some great generational passer. I would rate his passing at probably even lower than someone like, I don't know about lower than Joel Embiid, but he's kind of on that level. It's kind of like a very unnatural passer. Like you can see, like if you're really watching it, you can go and see, like when he gets doubled and he passes out, it's off target so much. It's so off target. Like, he's passing to Dennis Schroeder. Schroeder has to move into the shot and reach up to get it. And then he has to take an extra second to gather. It's not what you want out of a person who's initiating your offense, right? So what he's good at, they're asking him to maybe dial it back because he's not good enough at it to win games. And that can be a really tough thing because for him, he's looking at this like, well, I'm definitely not getting max contract shooting threes, right? If I turn myself into Karl-Anthony Towns in this year and it doesn't work and I shoot 28%, like I'm going to average 17 points in the season, and who's going to give me max contract? I get it from his side too. So yeah. 11 saying Siakam got benched the entire 4th quarter. I think, yeah, that's the second time that has happened. The previous time, I believe, was Milwaukee, and he was none too pleased. And I'm not surprised that after today's game that he did not talk to the media, because that's what happens with Pascal Siakam. When he has, not a great game and a loss, he doesn't talk to the media.
And what about Porter? Why is Porter not playing, do you think? And
I don't know.
Robert,
I think go ahead.
Sorry, I'm going to check out, and I just want to say I've been following you for a couple of years, and yeah, we live in Spain here, but we're from Canada, so it's great. So
thank you so much, Frank. I'll answer your question about Otto. Yeah.
Talk to you later.
See ya. Yeah, so in terms of Otto, I think maybe Darko just wanted to give Precious and Boucher like a chance to keep their spot since Otto missed the game. I don't know. The last time Otto did play for us, he had 0 points on, I think, 0 for 3 or 0 for 0. Like, I don't think he attempted a shot. He wasn't overly negative. I think analytically, he's still one of your 5 best players. I'll die on that hill. I'm being generous when I say he's one of your 5 best players. I actually think he's actually one of your 4 best players. But, for whatever reason, give it time, man. Like, I mean, I don't know. I see basketball kind of like the way Darko does. We come from the same country. We probably have a lot of the same influences, probably grew up watching a lot of the same people. We're not similar age. I think Darko's like 10 years older than me. But certainly I have grown up around Yugoslavian basketball as well. And I understand like the influences and where he's coming from and a lot of things. It's just wild to me that we see things so differently. Like, I don't like Dennis Schroeder very much as a player. I can't imagine running an offense around him and expecting to win, but he seems hellbent on doing this. I cannot imagine benching Otto Porter in favor of any of these people. It's crazy. So anyways, this has gone long enough. This live has been very nice, but also kind of frustrating. It was a chance to wax poetic about a lot of different subjects. Did a really good live, which was an hour and a half earlier in the day. It was really succinct, really to the point. I think in light of what happened today, it might be something that's worth listening to for anybody out there. All right. To all the trolls, thank you for making this live entertaining. To those who are not trolling, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. And Again, 0-sum for your super chat early. I really hope so. All right. Take care and have a good one, guys. Make sure to hit subscribe, like, and yes, I will see you tomorrow. And Pacers dropping 150 on us tomorrow. Wouldn't it be cool if we came out and just shut the water down on them? That'd be cool, right? Like, I think that would make up for what happened today, right? We're gonna match Philly anyway and pay $40 million for OG. Yikes. Yeah. Facts. King Kylie saying, I'm not worried about Gary trade value. If Jakob can get a first pick, we can get a first pick. Shooting is always premium. Yeah, but he's shooting like 33% from the field, man, or 33% from three. It's not quite Jakob, and you'll have to find a team as desperate to save their season as Fred VanVleet. However, it is worth noting that you might find in a league of increased parity, at least I'll try to explain this from the Raptor side. In a league of increased parity, where you have a ton of teams that are like 4 games out, 3 games out, 2 games out, all you need to do is find the team that is most delusional about their prospects and offer them an upgrade on whatever the hell they have. So the equivalent would be a Kem Birch for Jakob Poeltl swap, right? It's a massive upgrade. So Gary Trent versus Davis Bertans is an upgrade. I mean, no matter how you want to throw that, it's an upgrade. Pascal Siakam over Harrison Barnes and Kevin Huerter is an upgrade on talent for sure. I don't know about fit. So I think it'll be interesting for the Raptors. And I wonder if Masai Ujiri will, history will repeat itself with Masai, because it seems like the last time he tried to tank, he inadvertently started We the North with Patrick Patterson, John Salmons, Chuck Hayes, and call them four horsemen, Gravis Vasquez. I mean, geez, these 4 guys were not meant to come in and usher a new movement of basketball in Toronto, but that's what they did. And I feel like if you trade Pascal Siakam, you'll get it again. Anyways, Yuffie saying, if tomorrow turns into a blowout, Darko should do something else. Yo, man. So the thing is, with high-scoring teams, like if you're off, you are going to get blown out real quick. If they're off, they can get blown out real quick too. So I have a feeling that after what happened tonight, that this team will try to approach tomorrow's game with a little bit more professionalism and a little bit more force. And if they can deliver a bit of a knockout punch in the first quarter, maybe, they end the suffering for one night. I don't know, but I'd be curious. I'll be curious to see. I'll obviously be watching Tyrese, one of my favorite players, a lot of players. But man, their bench unit, like they have depth. They have depth, and it continues, right? If I don't know who's playing or not playing for them, but if they're healthy, I'll be very curious to see Jarris Walker. To those of you who wanted a little bit of a preview for the players to watch tomorrow, Jarris Walker, Andrew Nembhard, Tyrese Halliburton. Just watch how quickly Tyrese moves the ball. And honestly, if there's one coach, like I know Darko has been outcoached several times this year already. If there's one coach you are 1,001 million gazillion % about to get outcoached by, it is Rick Carlisle. 100%. He will get outcoached tomorrow. Will the Raptors win? I don't know, but he will definitely get outcoached. That is for sure. Okay. Peace, and, be well, Samson. Yeah, I hope he's okay. Flynn, Boucher, Precious. Any prospect on any other team that isn't performing that we should target for a swap for players that doesn't fit for a future? It's funny. I can't think of any right now, but I was thinking about Jalen Suggs a lot last year around the trade deadline. I was just like, man, if Orlando wants Fred, like we would trade Jalen Suggs and they retain his bird rights. Didn't happen, right? But that was one trade that I just kept proposing and proposing and proposing until I was blue in the face. Yeah, we'll see. Okay. Take care, guys. Have a good one. Peace. Have a good night.